Hello and welcome to my channel. I make music, I make videos and sometimes I try to make sense of this world. और इस वीडियो में हम बात करेंगे इंडिपेंडेंट फिल्म्स के अनाथ आश्रम, स्ट्रगलिंग एक्टर्स के मनरेगा और सेंसर बोर्ड ट्राइब्यूनल के रिपीट कस्टमर की वन मिस्टर अनुराग कश्यप. ही इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट प्रोलिफिक फिल्म मेकर्स इन आवर कंट्री और अब तो भाई की फिल्में रिलीज भी होने लगी हैं. Kennedy has just released on ZEE5, so I thought as this much awaited thriller finally finds an outlet, let me revisit his filmography and see how Kennedy places in between classics like Black Friday, Gulal and Gangs of Wasseypur. If you're a cinephile over the age of 25, you know the importance Anurag Kashyap has in the scene. A man who, without having a single hit at the box office, is still a legendary name in an industry that doesn't think beyond the Friday collection of films. आज अगर मार्टिन स्कॉर्सेसी होमबाउंड बना रहा है या अल्फोंसो क्वारॉन डिसाइपल को एग्जीक्यूटिव प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ अनुराग कश्यप हु ब्रिज द गैप बिटवीन इंडिया एंड द ग्लोबल फिल्म मार्केट ईयर्स अगो. नाउ ऑफ कोर्स people like Satyajit Ray and Raj Kapoor had made those leaps years ago, but in our modern mainstream it is Anurag Kashyap who became that flag bearer of gritty, independent and non-commercial artistic cinema. At a time when private equity money had infiltrated the industry and making crores became the North Star metric for filmmakers. So in this video, let us look back at the man's filmography and see कि भाई ऐसा भी क्या है इन पिक्चरों में. Keeping aside his interviews, his activism and the general perseverance he has shown in the industry, let us analyze his films for what they are and try to understand if he truly deserves the legendary status we've given him. One of the biggest reasons I'm making this video is because I'm a fan of the guy. I just like his journey and his approach to freedom and doing things your own way. मैं अपनी daily life में इस चीज़ से बहुत सीखता हूँ. And even in my art, I have realized the importance of having irreverence and disdain for authority. But it's not like his films are without flaws, right? तो एक दिन मैंने सोचा कि भाई क्या मुझे ये बंदा सिर्फ इसकी ऑफ स्क्रीन आइडियोलॉजी की वजह से पसंद है या सिनेमा में भी कुछ दम है. इंडिया में दूसरे और फिल्म मेकर्स हैं, but why does one man get so much praise and attention? So to make a definitive guide to Anurag Kashyap's cinema, I decided to do the most YouTube thing ever, make a tier list. Because why not? I will watch all his films in chronological order and we'll see how he has evolved as a storyteller. Were the classics really classics? And most importantly, was Bombay Velvet really that bad? I have devised a tier list as follows. Film School. This is the highest tier, films that are undeniable classics and should be studied to learn filmmaking. चाहे वो एक्टिंग हो या म्यूजिक, एडिट, सिनेमैटो, ये फिल्म्स इन सब डिपार्टमेंट्स में कुछ अलग अचीव करती हैं. अब या तो इन फिल्म्स में कोई फ्लॉज नहीं होने चाहिए या फिर वो फ्लॉज इतने माइनर हों कि ओवरऑल फिल्म की स्टोरी टेलिंग और व्यूइंग एक्सपीरियंस को हैम्पर ना करें. द क्रेम डे ला क्रेम ऑफ कश्यप सिनेमा. ऑलमोस्ट देयर, नो पॉइंट्स फॉर गेसिंग. This tier is for films that are almost there in film school. Great story, gripping performances, but some teeny tiny thing about it makes it miss the spot. I would recommend these films to a cinephile, but wouldn't die on that hill if they're not crazy about it. Classic Kashyap core. Even before I start watching the films, I think most films will end up here. These are quintessential Anurag Kashyap films with all the isms associated with his cinema. A twisted take on reality, political awareness, acting chops, banging music, but at the same time long, indulgent edits, side plots that drag the story, personal opinions that will take you out of the universe of the film. This category has it all. Na zyada bura, na bahut acha. Classic Kashyap. Phatke Flower. These are films with good intentions, but something happened और ये फिल्म में फटके फ्लावर हो गई. या तो बजट कम था या इंडस्ट्री का प्रेशर, थिंग्स गॉट रश्ड, और द कॉन्सेप्ट इटसेल्फ वाज टू अनअटेनेबल, या फिर इन टिपिकल कश्यप फैशन बहुत कुछ ट्राई करने निकले और हुआ कुछ भी नहीं, रायता और फैल गया. जूलॉजी ही कर लेते. These are films which just failed to leave an impact on me. They are doomed from the first frame, or something so bizarre happens down the line that nothing can redeem these films. ऐसी पिक्चर बनाने से बेहतर तो कश्यप भाई जूलॉजी में ही कुछ कर लेते. वाओ मैन, दिस YouTube thing is making me so mean and sassy. I love it. But jokes aside, these are just categories when you compare them to other Kashyap films. I wanted to include his short films like Bombay Talkies and That Day After Every Day, but not all of them are available online. Like Mumbai Cutting नहीं मिली मुझे कहीं पे. I saw चार चप्पलें at Mami, but obviously I can't rewatch it now. तो shorts को हम बाद में देखते हैं. but just saying his short film in Ghost Stories is top tier film school stuff. And for this video, I am not considering Last Train to Mahakali as a film, as it was a TV feature, and same with Sacred Games. It's a Netflix series with one more director. यहाँ पे हमें सिर्फ एक बंदे का singular vision चाहिए. तो बस फिर शुरू करते हैं. By the way, spoilers ahead for all Kashyap films. First off, we have a film जो single film है, पर सबने 3 पार्ट में देखी है. And an HD cut of the film without the words preview copy embedded on the corner is worth its value in gold. भाई literally मेरी आत्मा पे छप चुका है preview copy. I am talking about Anurag Kashyap's first feature film as a director, Panch, a film that was never cleared by the censor board for its violence and drug use. Apparently it was going to be released in 2025, but I never came across any such news. वरना भाई इंटरनेट पे आतंक मच जाता सिनेफाइल्स का और पॉडकास्ट में भी. The film is inspired by the 1970s Joshi Abhyankar murders and checks out all the classic Anurag Kashyap tropes. Gritty subject matter, solid performances, dark visuals, it has it all. Except in this film, all of these styles were developing. You could see the 10,000 hours being spent with the ideas that he was going for. और clearly budget भी इतना नहीं था, and it shows at some places. The acting was a little extra hammy, the dialogues a little extra satya, but fortunately and surprisingly, the Kashyap overindulgence was controlled. काफी tight film थी भाई ये, both in terms of the screenplay and the final edit, which is something we don't get to say about his films now. Also, just look how they managed to achieve such a moody look with a limited budget. Such a great play of lights and shadows. The film is a masterclass in low-budget cinematography. The sound, of course, isn't as good, but I think that's a fact of lower-budget films from that era. Everything from Hasil to even Maqbool suffers from this. But what it lacks in technical finesse, it more than makes up for in its characterization and how the overall story progresses. I loved how they've written Luke and him slowly getting sensitized to killing. And towards the end, it's almost like he enjoys it more than staying out of trouble. A motif that was explored in Raman Raghav as well. It reminded me of Bishop in Juice. एक बंदा जिसमें बहुत angst है अपने social economic status को लेके, और जैसे ही उसके पास violence का weapon आता है, उसके मुंह पे खून लग जाता है. And his worst animalistic desires find an outlet. It captures the frustration of struggling artists and comes from a very genuine place. Now that I think of it, violence as a result of despair is a very common motif in his cinema. Kennedy, this, Raman Raghav, Gulal, these are films that explore violence without necessarily showing them on screen. आज के OTT के ज़माने में CGI खून और special effects से decapitated bodies दिखाना बहुत ही आसान है, but एक violent इंसान की psyche में जाना बहुत tough काम है, जो ये film काफ़ी अच्छे से करती है. One thing Anurag Kashyap had from the start was a great eye for title sequences. I mean, dude, look at this. सुंदर. आज भी लोग नहीं देते इतनी attention to detail. Clearly inspired by David Fincher's 7 title sequence, it pays homage without ripping it off. Also, the music by Vishal Bharadwaj and the lyrics by Abbas Tayarwala hold up even today. Pakamat and Main Khuda are such bangers with such a weird teenage angst to it. I can imagine them blowing up in college fests. It really shows the changing tide of the world in 2000s. When high culture and Urdu poetry was taking a backseat for more contemporary vocabulary. One thing I liked about the film was how unabashedly K.K. Menon played the character of Luke. That ego and god complex was totally visible on his face. Thoda dramatic tha, but it was a nice look on him. Usually he has a more controlled way of portraying his characters, so I liked the way he projected Luke. Very outward, very different from the KK we see. One thing I didn't like was how the character of Shivli was imagined. It felt like a teenager's idea of what an independent woman must be like. जो sexually promiscuous है, दारू पीती है, लड़कों के साथ hang out करती है. And I'm sure at the time it must have been subversive, but it definitely hasn't aged very well. And the amount of times people call her Rand is just extra. One interesting thing I noticed about the film was this Abhinav Kashyap cameo. It really goes to show how far back these brothers go in the industry. I would put this film in the classic Kashyap tier. Other than the low quality print, it is a pretty solid offering that I can watch even today. It was definitely killed by the government of the time, but nevertheless, good cinema survives, and Panch did as well. Also, people say they want Kashyap and KK Menon to collaborate again, but dude, what about Kashyap and Aditya Srivastav? That's a comeback I'm rooting for. With this video, let us also break Anurag Kashyap's vast career into some eras, since there are just so many films the guy has made. His off-screen life and the state of the country definitely had an impact on his films and vice versa. So it will be fun to track it. 5 के बाद से एक टाइम शुरू होता है जिसे I'll call the Kashyap Who era. Nobody outside of Andheri and Versova knows who Anurag Kashyap is right now, and the myth around him hasn't been made yet, but he's making strides with his work. आपको इन फिल्मों की कहानियाँ, विजुअल्स याद रहेंगे, बट क्योंकि उस टाइम पे इतने इंटरव्यूज और ऑफ स्क्रीन कंटेंट नहीं था, यू नेवर केयर्ड टू लुक who's behind the camera. An upside to this is that a dedicated filmmaker could make the kind of films they want without having to cater to a fan base or a personality cult. Experimentation का scope भी बढ़ जाता है. You don't have to appease anyone. But a downside is that because no one knows you, you don't have a lot of leeway to fully do things your way. अब आप कोई करण जौहर या आदित्य चोपड़ा तो हो नहीं जो आपके नाम पे आपको फिल्म बनाने का पैसा मिलेगा. तो अगर आपकी कहानी जरा भी मेन स्ट्रीम से हटके होगी तो आपकी पिक्चर को पैसे नहीं मिलेंगे, बैन हो जाएगी, रिलीज रुक जाएगी. बेसिकली योर गुमनामी विल एक्ट बोथ एज अ स्ट्रेंथ एंड अ वीकनेस. अ वेरी फ्रस्ट्रेटिंग टाइम टू बी इन. फंसा हुआ महसूस करेगा बंदा. एंड आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट वुड हैपन विद हिज सब्सिक्वेंट रिलीजेस. The next film on our list is Kashyap's official debut, another film that could not see a normal result as it was banned when it first came out and got heavily pirated by the time it won the case and released in theaters, Black Friday. If there's a list of Indian films that cannot be made today, I think Black Friday would be top 5 on that list. Just the journalistic rigor and fearlessness and even stupidity that it takes to tell the story of the 1993 Bombay blasts. Something as simple as retaining the original names of the people involved with the blast. That's just something we don't do in Indian cinema. The fact that it was conceived by a newspaper as a TV miniseries is to blame for all the bluntness of the reporting. Hussain Zaidi, who was Midday's chief crime reporter at the time, wrote a book about the blasts which was developed by Kashyap as a 6-part miniseries for Aaj Tak. But when it fell through, he decided to direct it himself as a feature film. Just like a well-made documentary, you are introduced to a lot of characters and you want to know more about these people and how each of them plays their part in the larger story. So the extended sequences of people getting caught or people moving from city to city don't seem boring at all. Something that Kashyap knows how to do very well. Every new arrest is like a new piece in a building crescendo, which culminates in the 1992 Babri Masjid demolition and the riots that sparked a change in Indian politics. A very smart plot device was that they started with the blasts and worked backwards in time to end with Babri Masjid. This gives both the police and the terrorists an emotional grounding for their actions. कि भाई अब ये लोग ये सब कर क्यों रहे हैं? A technique used by Shoojit Sarkar in Sardar Udham as well. Also, now that I think of it, if there's a list of the most influential Indian films, Black Friday belongs on that list as well. I would argue that Dhurandhar wouldn't exist without Black Friday. Meghna Gulzar's Talwar would look and feel very different. Scam 1992 and its focus on the realistic procedural minutiae, all of this could happen only because it worked so well in Black Friday. The best thing about the film is that it looks at all its characters like humans, even someone like Tiger Memon, a smuggler who suddenly lost his illegal empire due to riots. How else will he respond? वो पुलिस के पास थोड़ी जाएगा, वो दाऊदबा के पास जाएगा. और राकेश मारिया, who deals with the emotional toll of his investigation methods in real time. It even spends time with the smaller pawns who actually carried out the attack, while masterminds like Dawood and Tiger Memon were chilling in Dubai. Also, I love how it preserves the awkward humor of such a tedious investigation. Again, humanity. In a world where religious extremism got rid of this humanity, this film does a good job of retaining some of it. If there's anything I didn't like about the film, it would be that the last chapter could have delved deeper into the event that kickstarted it all, the Babri Masjid demolitions, and how it gave rise to the modern Hindutva movement. They show that one shot of uncles in a living room cheering with Jai Shri Ram, but that could have been explored further. I'm not sure उस time पे लोगों का कितना foresight रहा होगा कि ये इतना बढ़ जाएगा. But in hindsight, I would have loved to see how Hindutva reacted to these blasts and all. But I think staying limited to one incident really helped with the razor-sharp focus. One interesting trivia about the film is that the shots of the bomb blast were the same shots used in Rajkumar Hirani's Sanju. So that's a nice little tribute. He even thanks Anurag Kashyap in the opening credits. Hello, editing Pratik here. And as I was looking for clips to put in this section, I noticed something about the two versions of the film. The version that I have on my laptop is the 2007 version of the film, which was there in Netflix and Hotstar and all these streaming platforms, which is a bit different from the version that is available on YouTube, on Shimaru's YouTube channel, because that is the 2004 version and there are a few differences. The Jai Shri Ram shot I was talking about, that is not there in the Netflix version, the 2007 version. And even this extended sequence of the bomb blast is not there. वो डायरेक्टली जब वो उससे पूछता है कि करोगे क्या, उसके बाद से सीधे एंड क्रेडिट्स पे कट हो जाता है 2007 वाला वर्जन. बट इन द 2004 वर्जन देयर इज दिस सीक्वेंस ऑफ द बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट. ऑल्सो द सीन वेयर दे आर डिस्कसिंग कि ठाकरे को मारो, एडवाणी को मारो, ऑल ऑफ दैट इज मिसिंग फ्रॉम द 2007 कट. इट स्ट्रेट अवे कट्स टू टाइगर मेमन एंड हिज प्लान. द लाइन वेयर ही सेज कि हम हिंदुओं के लीडर को मारेंगे तो वो लोग उन्हें खुदा बना देंगे. All of that is again cut from the 2007 version. जो टाइगर मेमन का पूरा मोनोलॉग है, that is missing. So basically जो कोर्ट केस के बाद कट आया था उसमें से a lot of the repercussions of the Babri Masjid demolition, the riots, all of that has been removed. The ideology of people like Tiger Memon and Dawood were removed. Basically तुमने पूरा जो political core है मूवी का वो तो तुमने हटा दिया. And the line where Tiger Memon says कि इस्लामी ताकत है and मुसलमान को देख के हिंदू अपनी धोती में मूत देगा, all of that is not there in the later cut. So that makes me think that आप basically कितना sanitize कर रहे हो एक फिल्म को, because maybe you think that Indian audiences won't be able to deal with such exposure of ideology. I don't know what it is, but it just jumped out to me. So if you really want to get a full sense of what Kashyap was really going for when it comes to his commentary about religious intolerance, I think you should watch the 2004 cut, which is available for free on Shimaru's YouTube channel. You can stay away from the 2007 cut. I would put this film in film school, and I would also put this film in journalism school as a lesson on how to report on your subjects with basic human dignity and courtesy. Two things we've stopped doing in mainstream Indian news. Imagine, ये फिल्म आज तक के लिए कमीशन हुई थी. Usually मैं फिल्म्स के बारे में थोड़ी बात करता हूँ, things I like, didn't like as much, and in the end I put them in a tier. But भाई, for this one, right off the bat, this is film school, 2 in a row. फिल्म क्रिटिसिज्म में एक बड़ा फ्लॉड आइडिया है which is greatly challenged by this film. People say that a film should work on its own merit. आपको एक फिल्म को पसंद करने के लिए फिल्म मेकर की बायोग्राफी पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं होनी चाहिए. And no smoking completely goes against it. It is so personal that to fully engage with the film, you have to know Anurag Kashyap's journey, and after watching the film, you are invested in this journey even more. मोस्ट लोग जो कश्यप स्टैंस बनते हैं वो यही फिल्म देख के बनते हैं, क्योंकि अगर आपको इस डायरेक्टर के बारे में कुछ भी नहीं पता, देन इट्स जस्ट अ मूडी एब्स्ट्रैक्ट थ्रिलर फॉर यू. बट डूड, if you know the slightest bit about what the man has gone through, you feel each and every metaphor to the bone. Usually जब हम freedom की बात करते हैं, we show our protagonists to be these virtuous people. वो सब कुछ सही कर रहे हैं, but the world around them is not letting them be. ताकि उनके लिए थोड़ी sympathy आए हमारे माइंड में. But this film asks the question, is freedom only reserved for good people? Should we have the freedom to destroy ourselves? K cigarette पीना चाहता है, everyone knows that it's bad for him, but should he be allowed to do it? Or will the fascist state take that right away from him? अपने मन की फिल्में बनाना हानिकारक है, सबको पता है भाई. नॉर्मल कमर्शियल फिल्में बना के पैसे कमाओ ना. But should a filmmaker be allowed to ruin his sanity by standing for what he feels is right? Once you look at the film from this lens, the metaphor of smoking works perfectly. K could have been this bechara, perfect, sadhu aadmi who's not being allowed to make his kind of cinema. But K harami hai, an imperfect victim. And the film still manages to generate empathy for him because the antagonist on the other end is so well written. He's creepy, he's so evil that uske samne K bhi acha lagne lagta hai. He's Stalin and Hitler all combined into one. He barely raises his voice ever. He's the calmest person in the room, but he's infinitely more powerful than all of us. He knows everything about us, even in our most vulnerable, solitary moments. And when I look around the world, I see Baba Bengalis all around. And K's angst starts feeling that much real. When those people say,
ये कबाड़ से निकला है, ये अलमारी से, और मैं बिस्तर के नीचे से निकलता हूँ।
I feel like क्या हम सब भी बस अपने सपनों में ही आज़ादी फील कर रहे हैं? When I see people like Umar Khalid and Sonam Wangchuk in jail, I ask myself कि क्या मुझे भी स्मोकिंग छोड़ देनी चाहिए? आफ्टर ऑल एक सभ्य समाज के लिए सिगरेट पीना हानिकारक है। या फिर मैं भी इंडिया छोड़ के फॉरेन चले जाऊं एलेक्स की तरह, वहाँ तो सिगरेट पीना अलाउड है शायद, और फिर मैं वहाँ से आके यहाँ के लोगों को फ्रीडम पे ज्ञान दे सकता हूँ, यहाँ पे लोगों को सिगार बेच सकता हूँ। भाई नेक्स्ट टाइम जब कोई फ्रेंच आर्टिस्टिक सिनेमा का चौधा बोले ना कि इंडिया में सिर्फ मेन स्ट्रीम सिनेमा बनता है, शो देम नो स्मोकिंग एंड देन टेल हिम दैट यस, इंडिया में सिर्फ मेन स्ट्रीम सिनेमा ही बनता है। Because this film was a disaster commercially and everyone from the producer to the theaters lost money. And because of that, ऐसी picture India में कभी नहीं बनेगी. If I have to mention just one thing I liked about the film, I would say that John Abraham's lack of acting chops really worked for the character of K. So I think it was bang on casting. The perpetual blank expression on his face really drove home the bizarreness of this world. Now, I don't know इसमें से how much is he really acting and how much is just him being clueless, but it worked nonetheless. No Smoking is one of those rare films where I didn't find anything major that I didn't like. Nitpicks aside, like I didn't like the font they used in the dialogue boxes. I think if there's anything like a perfect film, this is that. Maybe because it's so personal. The final item song by Bipasha was definitely out of place, but that was a promotional thing, playing on their relationship. And I'm sure it must have been added later since John's hair is shorter. So, उसको excuse कर सकते हैं. मेरे लिए the film ends when K is referring his next client and gets his fingers back. A perfect closer to a perfect film. K got his smoking fingers, his freedom back, but not fully. He knows he'll always be watched. One interesting thing about the film was the whole Abbas Tayarwala angle. See, from K's POV, Abbas Tayarwala was one of his own, जो उसके साथ सिगरेट पीता था, his partner in crime, या जो कश्यप के साथ subversive cinema बनाता था. After all, he penned lyrics for his first film, Panch. But after the reality of Indian cinema and censorship set in, Abbas gave away his fingers and fell in line. As Baba Mungali says,
अब एक उंगली से टाइप करते हैं, सलाम नमस्ते MBBS.
अरे मकबूल मैं हूं ना.
all the films that Abbas Tayarwala wrote in. So Kashyap is sort of trolling his ex-collaborator. Again, context पता है तो it just adds so much more value. As I said starting में ही, this is top tier film school material. अगर तुम्हें सीखना है कि कैसे एक पर्सनल कहानी को बिना डम डाउन करे बोलें, watch No Smoking and take notes. Next, we have the most left field film in this list. Just like everyone else, when I found out that ये film अनुराग कश्यप ने बनाई है, मैं काफी flip हुआ था. I'm talking about 2007's Return of Hanuman, an animated children's film which was a sequel to 2005's Hanuman, but maybe because of some legal dispute, the final release had this disclaimer. I'm tempted to put it under classic Kashyap or higher, especially because of the fondness I had for the film as a child. But when I look at it today, the screenplay does drag a lot. And other than the overarching story, I don't see a lot of Kashyapisms that define his signature style. The animation feels choppy, the Bollywood mimicry doesn't work at all.
कितने आदमी थे? एक बच्चा था.
In general, पूरा second act ही काफी unimpactful था. बस कहानी बढ़ाने के लिए चीजें हो रही थी स्क्रीन पे. But even then, you could see his ideology in bits and pieces. Like see this news का scene on शुक्र ग्रह. कैसे तुम बच्चों को वॉर और एक्सट्रीमिज्म के अगेंस्ट प्राइम कर रहे हो.
आज अफगानिस्तान में हुए बमबारी में 1000 लोग मारे गए और मुंबई में हुए रेल धमाके में 800 लोग क्या कहते हैं उसे भगवान को प्यारे हुए.
और खुशी की बात यह है कि इंसान ये सब खुद ही कर रहा है कि नहीं?
The 9/11 scene where Hanuman saves the day. For a kid, that would be such a fresh way to integrate our homegrown characters to something that is happening across the world. इस सीन को देख के शायद कोई बच्चा 9/11 गूगल करेगा, विद टाइम उसके जियोपॉलिटिकल एस्पेक्ट्स के बारे में पढ़ेगा, और भाई यही तो चिल्ड्रंस फिक्शन का काम होता है. सो आई लाइक द फिल्म ऑन दैट फ्रंट इवन टुडे, यूजिंग मॉडर्न आइकॉनोग्राफी टू टेल अ टाइमलेस टेल. Sachin Tendulkar, Mount Rushmore, everything works perfectly. Also, the core elements of the story hit hard even today, like the final climax scene. It scarred me against littering for life, even though the animation in that part was terrible. अचानक से out of nowhere 3D elements आ जाते हैं and they are interacting with a 2D हनुमान. ये मुझे याद है कि उस टाइम पे भी इतना jarring सा लगा था मेरे को. But the writing and the way that final ज्वालामुखी eats everything up, It was so intense to watch as a child. They actually went very dark in a children's animated movie. What could be more Kashyap than that? One thing I liked about the film was the music. Tapas Aurelia really hit it out the park with tracks like Aasmaan Ko Chhu Kar Dekha and Dishum Dishum. Even the superhero theme was so cool. Usually animated films का music बहुत basic होता है, ज़्यादा ध्यान नहीं दिया जाता arrangement और composition पे. But that's not the case here. He was the same guy who did the music for the first one, and he one-ups his work here. I'm sure people of my generation have these songs by heart. One thing I didn't like was the cheap Sunil Pal ass mimicry, man. I really hated it. It just hasn't aged well.
खाने चल फुट क्या हे हिंदी नहीं आती तो अपनी भाषा में बोलो चिल डूड रिलैक्स
अगर एक दो जगह पे होती तो समझ में भी आता, but there's this Gabbar character, this big gorilla, some Sanjeev Kumar stuff is happening. I'm sure for a cinephile like Kashyap, it would have been fun to pay homage to Rajnikant, Bruce Lee and all, but it just feels cringe looking back. There was a time when Bollywood used mimicry as a regular comedy gag in films, but I don't remember any one of them being remotely funny. If you know of a funny Bollywood mimicry scene, please let me know in the comments below. क्यों करते थे भाई हम इतनी mimicry? One interesting trivia about the film is that one of the kids who sang the Hanuman Chalisa in the end was Arman Malik, this Arman Malik. If I have to give a tier to this film, I would say कि भाई इससे अच्छा तो zoology कर लेते. काफ़ी अच्छा idea था हनुमान को modern setting में डालना, very ballsy and a fun concept. But the weird animation, the whole second act, the mimicry, all of it was enough to slow down what could have been a fun, quirky take on an Indian homegrown superhero. At this point, if I have to pause and look back at the films we've watched, one thing I can say for sure is that all the films we've watched are different. Of course, thematically कुछ चीज़ें एक दूसरे से borrow कर रही हैं, but the look, the storytelling, the music, the general tone, it varies according to subject matter. And I think the fact that he has written for so many other directors is to be credited for that. क्योंकि उससे आप अपने अलावा किसी और के सुर में भी खेलना सीखते हो. From Ram Gopal Verma to Mani Ratnam to Deepa Mehta, you have to incorporate different styles and different personas. And that shows even in his own films. He's able to work with so many diverse people and still retain a cohesive end product in his own weird way. Too many cooks without spoiling the broth. But there's another glaringly visible thing till now. Anger and insecurity. Barring Return of Hanuman, of course, the three films we saw seem to come from a very angry space. The anger is definitely justified, but in addition to the anger, it seems like there's an urge to prove it to the industry or to the peers that, look, मैं भी picture बना सकता हूँ. Most visible in No Smoking, but even in the first film Paanch, there was this forced sense of it and cool factor. Luke का पूरा character इसी पे based है. वो जो लोग होते हैं ना जो cool होने के लिए cool चीजें करते हैं, थोड़ा वैसा लगा मेरे को. Not that it didn't work, a film like Black Friday would not have been possible without that it factor, where you do things differently just to be a contrarian. अगर आप जान पूछ के status quo को challenge नहीं करोगे, तो Black Friday जैसी पिक्चर नहीं बनेगी. But चलो इस टाइम तक general audience में तो नहीं, but I'm sure industry में अनुराग कश्यप ने अपनी एक presence बना ली होगी. By 2007, it would be 14 years since he came to Bombay, writing for so many other films, trying to get a film on floor. And after such a tumultuous beginning as a director, hopefully अब तो थोड़ी गाड़ी चलनी शुरू हो गई होगी. And this is when the Anurag Who era comes to an end. थोड़ा नाम होने लगा है, लोग पहचानने लगे हैं. बस अब एक ऐसी पिक्चर बना दो जो पब्लिक की फाड़ के रखते हैं. Something that cements his name as one of the greats. And then comes 2009's Devdi. The first time people registered the name Anurag Kashyap as a modern, cool, indie filmmaker, owing largely to the banging music by Amit Trivedi. I think it was the first full soundtrack I listened to, start to finish, that and Dilli 6. But obviously, I wasn't old enough to watch the film in theaters, and I remember उस time पे हमारे घर का internet भी torrent करने जितना तेज नहीं था. We got Wi-Fi pretty late, so I missed out on the action for a few years. The film is a take on Devdas, Sharat Chandra's Bengali novel, which was made by Sanjay Leela Bhansali in an epic musical a few years prior to Devdi's release. And just like that one, this version of the classic novel is a deeply personal take by an opinionated artistic voice accompanied by some amazing music. Now, don't let the music and the funky colors fool you into thinking that it is just fluff. That's a mistake I made for years. You know, when you watch a film for the first time and don't revisit it for years, the aftertaste you have in your mouth is often very different from the film because you have grown, but your memory of that film is still that old. That's precisely what happened in Devdi with me. And that's why I make it a point to rewatch my favorite films every year. I want my experience of those films to grow with me. I would always remember the film to be this rondu love story loosely strung with good songs. I felt it was a little overrated. But it is only in recent times that I've absorbed the emotional core and commentary in the film. What is being said about masculinity, about love, about the underbelly of a city, a word that gets associated with Kashyap a lot. He captured the dingiest parts of Delhi so well, yet with such pristine aesthetics. All through an overgrown, drug-abused man-child stuck in a city that is Dilwali on the outside, but can be pretty heartless on the inside. Like Amit Trivedi said in the song, "Ye duniya badi gol hai." What Dil Chahta Hai did to Goa, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara did to Spain, I think Devdi did to Paharganj. It gave a character and an image to a place, an image that still influences people today. आज मैं अपने घर वालों को अगर बोलूँ कि मैं पहाड़गंज जा रहा हूँ तो वो बोलेंगे कि भाई वहाँ से कुछ खाइयो मत प्लीज. But at the same time, I love how the film deals with its women with so much humanity, something that I found very problematic with films like Panch. Kalki's MMS sequence was shot with so much dignity. At all times, she and her emotional state is the point of focus. Before they have sex and what happens after. Pehle, she's this shy, young teenager who's probably experiencing sex and love for the first time. And after, when her adolescence is stripped of her. At no point do we cross that line of privacy and see what is actually happening in that video. Something a lesser director would have sprung to shoot. You know, like an out of focus shot of her giving him a blowjob or some audio or something like that. But there was none of that here. The only visual we see from that room is the guy saying, "Lenny tu best hai." The perpetrator gets exposed, not the victim. Because we as the audience are supposed to be on the side of the victim. We are supposed to just stay with Lenny and her state of mind. But again, just like a lot of other Kashyap films, an amazing first act makes way for a draggy pre-climax, after which even a great climax can't redeem it. And that's what happened here too. Also, I am 50-50 on redeeming Dev in the end. Sometimes I like that decision, sometimes I think like it's too much of a cop-out. Overall, the film just ended abruptly for me, emotionally speaking. One thing I liked about the film was how it used Paro and Chanda to show us how easy it is to slut shame women. Paro अपनी sexual agency demand करती है, उसके बारे में कोई अफवाह उड़ती है and she becomes a slut. Lenny का MMS leak होता है and she's a slut in her school. So she owns up and actually becomes a sex worker and exercises her agency over her clients. As Chunni says,
जो तुम्हें पसंद नहीं, जब तक पसंद नहीं, करने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं.
but even then, the kind of slut she can be is limited to her body. As soon as she starts giving herself to Dev without a financial transaction, it becomes a problem. अगर तुम्हें दुनिया ने slut term भी कर दिया और तुमने उसे own up भी कर लिया, तो भी तुम फंसे हुए हो. Madonna भी फंसी हुई है, whore भी फंसी हुई है. One thing I didn't like was Kalki's performance, not throughout, just the parts where she had to play this broken teenager. कि देखो मेरे साथ इतना बुरा हुआ है, मैं अब पत्थर बन गई हूँ. I just didn't connect with her during those parts. In contrast to the more tender parts, when she's with Dev in that swimming pool, when she smiles, it was so genuine. But the cold-hearted wala part seemed a little forced and tagged on. Maybe a more experienced actor would have been able to juggle the innocence and the hardness a little better. One interesting thing about the film was the different versions of the song Emotional Atyachar. The film already has two versions, the normal brass band version and the rock version. But there was a third X-rated version which was uploaded online as part of the film's marketing campaign.
पूरा का पूरा माइंड फक यार तेरा इमोशनल अत्याचार.
This was the time of Volume 1, Kaash Koi Mil Jaye, Sutta. Songs with galis in them were raking in millions of downloads. And to cash in on the fun, the film made this song. As of now, UTV has deleted the video from YouTube, but bhai, ye internet hai, yahan pe kuch nahi chupta. I would put this film in the classic Kashyap category. If not for the misplaced 20 minutes, it would have been a pretty solid film exploring love, sexuality and masculinity. I would say that this is Kashyap's most complete film. ये फिल्म आप किसी फॉरेन सिनेमा फैन को भी दिखा सकते हो और एक स्टॉन्च मेन स्ट्रीम बॉलीवुड वाले बंदे को भी। हर कोई कुछ ना कुछ ले सकता है इस फिल्म से। विद देव डी स्टार्ट्स द इंडस्ट्री डार्लिंग एरा ऑफ अनुराग कश्यप्स करियर। फिल्म्स वर गेटिंग रिलीज्ड, ठीक ठाक पैसे भी मिल रहे थे, एंड द इमेज दैट ही होल्ड्स टिल डेट, इंडिपेंडेंट सिनेमा का रॉबिन हुड, दैट इमेज वॉज ऑल्सो बिल्ट इन दिस एरा। द बेस्ट टाइम टू बी अ फिल्म मेकर इन बॉलीवुड। Critical acclaim, budgets to make your kind of films, a buzzing cult fan base, the man had everything during this era. He could enable filmmakers like Vikramaditya Motwani and Bijoy Nambiar to make their feature film debuts. A huge crop of new actors like Nawaz, Kalki, Pankaj Tripathi and Rajkumar Rao would be introduced from strength to strength. What could go wrong? आ जाओ देखते हैं। Even though Gulal released after Dev D, the film was actually in production for many years prior. The viral success of Dev D and its musical album might have expedited the process of the film's completion. And in little more than a month, Gulal released on Indian screens with a slow reception, as was common with Kashyap films. But over time, it has received a cult status, I'd argue, primarily because of Piyush Mishra's hard-hitting political music. Right off the bat, Gulal had the same problem I had with Panch. The women were too dull and fake deep. They are screaming, "I've been written by a man." I get that the world of Gulal is a hyper-masculine one, so even the women operate with a level of testosterone. But when you say lines like,
इससे क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, लड़का है ना। अच्छा अब हाइपर मत हो, जो हो गया सो हो गया। तुम्हारे साथ नहीं हुआ ना, किराना है, कब तक हो जाएगा, आज हो सकता है।
While you see KK Menon's lust for power and glory in his eyes, or Deepak Dobriyal's loyalty, you don't see the perspective that comes after trauma in the eyes of Anuja, the way her character was written, or the feeling of revenge in Kiran. The performances of all these women were so phasi hui, whereas the men felt like they are breathing. But again, dude, what a story and what amazing characters. भाई बंदा तुम्हें उस वर्ल्ड में ट्रांसपोर्ट कर देता है। यू फील लाइक यू आर इन राजस्थान इन अ कॉलेज इलेक्शन अराउंड दीज पीपल हु वैल्यू ह्यूमन लाइफ लेस देन द कर्वेचर ऑन देयर मुस्टैश. It is politically aware, it has something to say, and it does it without fearing whoever it might offend. But more than Anurag Kashyap, this film was made by Piyush Mishra, the only voice of conscience in this world full of men lusting for power. He's shown as this madman, साला artist, जो फंस गया है इन पॉलिटिशियंस के बीच में. जॉन लेनन की बातें करता है, पीस की, इमेजिन की, अपनी कंट्री बनाने की. बट अगर तुम सोचो, डूकी बना भी तो सेम ही बात कर रहा है. एवरीथिंग इज गोइंग ऑन परफेक्टली, बट दिस फिल्म ब्रिंग्स आउट द प्रॉब्लम विद कश्यप्स वे ऑफ राइटिंग मोस्ट glaringly. The film builds up till Ransa's murder, a slick political thriller, but he gets so involved with the world and the characters that he created, he loses all the creative energy to conclude the story and ends up finding the most hacky ways to close the film. After Jadwal's murder, it starts slowing down and relying on familiar and repetitive conflicts and resolutions to find a way to the end. This goes on until Duki Bana's murder, and at this point, all the goodwill the film has earned goes to waste. A bad 20-minute patch can really ruin the overall experience of a film. Ask Rajkumar Hirani and Dunki. The most impactful scenes of the film are sandwiched between the weakest story progressions, like the Piyush Mishra musical outburst. Such a powerful scene, but followed by such a dull twist कि किरण GS बन गई. और reveal भी इतना blah सा होता है. If there's anything that holds back the film from being film school material, it is these 20 to 40 minutes. One thing I liked was the whole theatre play aesthetic of the film. Obviously, Piyush Mishra is a legend in the communist theatre scene, and he brings that rhythm here with his Sarfaroshi Ki Tamanna rendition or the item song Rana Ji. So layered. On the surface, it is a film about college elections, but there's commentary about everything from 9/11 to American imperialism to the Nazis to film being banned in a democracy. Exactly my kind of art. One thing I disliked was the way some of the actors chose to portray sturdiness and stoicism just as being blank on the face. Like, look at the way Ransa says his lines, or Karan. I get that these are manly men, तो ये emotions नहीं दिखा सकते ज़्यादा, but understated के नाम पे बस ये लोग लाइनें बोल के निकल गए यार. It works in some places, but more often than not, I find myself chuckling at the way these men and women say their lines. It was a constant thing with the women, but even the men were saying their lines like pieces of wood in places. One interesting thing I saw was another cameo, Vasan Bala, who is a close collaborator on Kashyap projects like Raman Raghav and Bombay Velvet. He can be seen here as the Panwadi. He's also in No Smoking as the journalist who asks Kay a question. And here he is in Devdi as a trumpet wala. And here in Gangs of Wasseypur as the singer. And Bombay Velvet. I'd love to play a drinking game where you spot Vasan Bala cameos in Anurag Kashyap films. If you find something else, do let me know in the comments below. For me, Gulal goes in the almost there tier. It just missed the top spot because of a dull patch, some inconsistent acting, and some predictable plot devices. But the world was so convincing that these issues don't dent it beyond a mild inconvenience. अगर फिल्म की pacing हल्की सी tight होती या performances थोड़ी कम stiff होती, it would be film school for sure. But हल्की सी बच गई. I saw this film years ago for the first time. I was way younger than I should have been. And I just had this one memory of Ruth giving a handjob to her own father. That was the one thought that stayed with me for the whole time. And I found it so repulsive that I never revisited the film until now. I just forgot the whole religious cult aspect of it. At the time, I didn't know about Osho and the ashram, so I didn't get the full context of why Ruth's father is the way he is. But now it makes complete sense. Shot on a 7D, this is independent cinema at its finest. Man, I love this about Kashyap. Right after a massive 19-song love story and epic like Devdas, he comes back with a film shot on a fucking DSLR, with his sister doubling up as a supporting actor. That is the testament and commitment to telling stories. Even though you've made it, you'll not prostitute your voice just to get a bigger budget, a bigger stage, or a better camera. The best thing I liked about the film was this one very specific screenplay and casting decision they've made. And that has taught me one very important thing about how casting affects the outcome of your script. Ab dekho, Ruth is looking for her father, and in the end, we find out that it is Kumud Mishra. And that's supposed to be this sick, dark twist in the end, right? But the film establishes Kumud Mishra's character in the first scene itself. फिर भी हम guess नहीं कर पाते that he's the real father. एंड में जब रिवील आता है तो इट इज़ एक्चुअली सरप्राइजिंग फॉर अस. अब यूजुअली फिल्म्स में जब कोई हू डन इट या ऐसी सिचुएशन होती है वेयर द प्रोटैगनिस्ट नीड्स टू फाइंड आउट द ट्रू आइडेंटिटी ऑफ समवन, it becomes very easy to spot the reveal from a mile simply because of the casting. Let's say a man is looking for the person who murdered his father. अब बाकी फिल्मों में क्या होगा कि the actual murderer would be played by a big shot actor like a Madhavan or an Abhishek Bachchan or something. But all the decoys will be played by smaller actors. So the difference of casting itself is a giveaway. कि यार एक ही बंदे पे इतना disproportionately पैसा खर्च किया है तो यही कोई important character होगा. Decoys पे थोड़ी waste करेंगे इतने पैसे. But here, we see Ruth meeting everyone from Nasiruddin Shah to Ronit Roy, Shiv Subramaniam, Makran Deshpande, and there's people like Mushtaq Khan in smaller roles. तो इनमें से कोई भी बाप हो सकता है. All these people are at a similar familiarity of faces for Kumud Mishra to get lost in all of them. And me as a viewer not being able to deduce who's the father simply by the casting. End में जब reveal आता है तो I can't really see it coming. But also it's not so left field that it betrays the internal logic of the character. वो बंदा starting से ही ठरकी था तो वो भी इन्होंने छुपाया नहीं. A very intentional way of hiding your main person of interest in a sea of decoys. Anyone writing a whodunit should definitely borrow this idea in their scripts. Again, I don't think there's anything that I don't like about this film. Maybe if I want to nitpick, the background score wasn't as good as his other films. But again, I don't really believe that. I'm just saying it for the sake of saying it. For a film like this, score थोड़ा understated ही होना चाहिए था. I've always loved the film without even knowing or remembering why. It has stayed with me. But only now I understand the reason why. Again, कोई डेविड फिंचर का 14 आके बोले कि भाई इंडिया में डार्क सिनेमा नहीं बनता, show them this. Film school material for sure. Anything less would be disrespectful. And that's just for the film. अगर टाइटल कार्ड में अनुराग कश्यप ना भी हो तो भी. Now add the fact that it was made right after Devdi's success. Now add the 7D camera and Rajiv Ravi's handheld aesthetic. Now add the angle of Kalki's real life experience as a foreign citizen navigating life in India. One interesting thing you notice while watching the film is this part in the end credits. There's a very short song in the film called Ladkadaiyan and it is credited to Varun Grover. This was his first ever song as a lyricist और इसके पीछे भी एक कहानी है. Legend has it, he used to be a contributor in the famous Anurag Kashyap blog Passion for Cinema. वहाँ पे they connected and Anurag asked him to pen a song. He sent him a draft and even before it could be approved or rejected, he added Varun's name in the credits. And that showed Varun that this is a man of integrity. Such a sweet story. I can't say this enough. This is film school material highly slept on. और भाई इसके बाद we come to two films that redefined Hindi cinema and Anurag Kashyap for years to come. Gangs of Wasseypur was the peak of Kashyap stardom. Two insanely entertaining, funny, masala, yet artistic films about some stupid gangsters. This is what happens when The Godfather meets David Dhawan. The film ticks all boxes of a classic work of art, but at the same time, it is masala as hell. The rest of the films in top Kashyap tiers are there because they either push the boundaries of storytelling, or they force you to think, or they inspire you to become better storytellers. बहुत artistic reasons है सबके. बहुत serious बातचीत हो रही है. But Wasseypur is there primarily because it is a fun fucking ride. बाकी subversion और influence वगैरह बाद में आता है. But the amount of fun I have watching Wasseypur is unlike any other Kashyap film. अब Wasseypur के बारे में बहुत बात हो चुकी है, ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा I would argue. And I can't add anything about the making or criticism of the film that hasn't been said before. So I'll just go to the tiers. For me, I would put Gangs of Wasseypur Part 1 in the film school tier, just because of how seamlessly it moves through its 2 hours and 40 minutes. Character introduction बोलो, world building बोलो, conflict set करना बोलो, सब कुछ smoothly हो रहा है इस फिल्म में. Literally पता भी नहीं चलता कि पिक्चर खत्म भी हो गई. And that is one thing I found missing in Part 2, which is why it goes in the almost there territory. Everything else is the same, बस थोड़ी distracting हो गई. The word that gets associated with Kashyap often, indulgence, Part 2 is a great example of that. After a point, Part 2 just becomes about different ways of people finding and killing each other. Now, don't get me wrong, those scenes are hilarious and work by themselves. I would argue that the Shamshad Alam chase is better than the Black Friday slum chase. But how much can you watch people murdering each other for petty revenge? And it's not even important people. Like in the first one, Shahid Khan gets killed and ends with Sardar, or beach mein Pahalwan and all happen, but they pass by very quickly. They don't take a lot of attention away from the main narrative. But yahan pe every small character like Fazlu, Khalid, Shamshad, all of them have their own arc, which is great if you're watching a series or if you're looking at the character in isolation. But in a 2.5 hour film, it is a bit much to follow, especially if you're watching it right after the first one, which I think is the best way to watch the film. Dono bhai saath mein dekho. So that's one thing I definitely feel is lacking from the first part. After a point, you forget कि हाँ Ramadhir Singh को भी मारना है. It starts just going into these tangents. Also, I just want to add one more thing. I always remembered the final Ramadhir Singh murder ka VFX to be this infamous work of terrible After Effects atrocity. It is the stuff of legends. But now that I rewatched it, it is not as bad. Of course, it could have been much better. Maybe the blood effects could have been more realistic and viscous. The muzzle flash throughout the film is very touchy. But yeah, all those are smaller things. As for the overall VFX look, there is really only this one shot where the effects are objectively terrible. Baki jagah with the cuts and some practical blood splatters, it was pretty neat. That just goes to show how unreliable our memory is. Because I always remembered it to be so fake and unconvincing, which it's not. To go on a little sidetrack, one thing I realized while watching the two Wasseypur movies is this is what it feels like to have zero censorship. Like abhi Dhurandhar thode time pehle Netflix pe aayi thi, and a lot of people were waiting for the Hamza Gaadi Rok line to be uncensored. And that just got me thinking कि भाई हम adult फिल्मों में भी कितनी काटपीट करते हैं. So stupid. Apparently, according to the interpretation of our laws by our current censor board, any gali that is about a woman is not allowed because it is a reasonable restriction to free speech. So Lodu is allowed, but Motherchode isn't. But by some freak accident, Gangs of Wasseypur managed to go past this catchy and retain all the maa behan ki galis. And for some reason, that just makes the film more immersive. Like, I'm not saying कि गालियों की वजह से फिल्म बेटर लग रही है, बट भाई हर 2 मिनट में रैंडमली डायलॉग म्यूट नहीं हो रहा, बीप नहीं आ रही, डबिंग में बकचोदी का बकलोली नहीं हो रहा, कॉन्वर्सेशंस नेचुरली फ्लो हो रही हैं. एंड आई थिंक दैट इज समथिंग वी लॉस्ट इन अडल्ट फिल्म्स इन द लास्ट 10 years. I remember watching Delhi Belly in the theater, absolutely lost in the plot. That scene, Sir Lundri, today that scene would sound something like this.
Lundri.
I don't know how so many adult films managed to retain their maas and behens back then, but not now. Maybe it has something to do with the abolishment of the FCAT, the tribunal where you could appeal if you got an unfavorable certificate. It was disbanded in 2021, and now filmmakers have to approach the High Court directly in case of any conflict, which, as we know, is a more cumbersome process for any producer. One trivia about the fact that I found very tragic was how Sohail Shah, the chief AD, died on the sets while driving an old car with bad tires. The film actually starts with in memory to Sohail Shah, but they spelled it Sohail in the first part and Sohail in the second part. So maybe VFX weren't the only thing they rushed in the film. Also, another interesting thing is that in both the films, the first credit you see on screen is of casting director Mukesh Chhabra, which is amazing because such a film could not have been possible without his on-point casting. Not even an extra was out of character, a nod very well deserved. After Vasipur, Kashyap was at an all-time high. फिल्म इंस्टेंट क्लासिक बन चुकी थी और उस टाइम तक यूट्यूब और मीम कल्चर भी आ गए थे एंड TVF डिड दिस ग्रेट स्पूफ गैंग्स ऑफ सोशल मीडिया. तो यंग लोगों का फुल अटेंशन था इस बंदे के पास एंड द इंडस्ट्री वॉज रेडी टू थ्रो मनी एंड स्टार्स एंड सपोर्ट एट हिज फीट. बॉक्स ऑफिस पे इतनी नहीं चली, बट दैट एनीवे इज नॉट द ओनली मेट्रिक बाय विच दीज कॉर्पोरेट्स जज अ मूवी. नंबर्स तो कितने भी फज हो सकते हैं, बट यू कांट फेक रियल वर्ल्ड ऑन ग्राउंड इन्फ्लुएंस. You can't fake bosses telling their juniors,
तुमसे ना हो पाएगा.
and that's what Vasipur had, street cred. And all these MBA corporate heads wanted that at all costs. और इस वजह से अनुराग कश्यप का वर्चस्व आसमान छू चुका था. Right off the bat, I want to start with an unpopular opinion. Ugly was a mid film at best. बुरी नहीं थी, बट सिनेफाइल सर्कल्स में जितनी तारीफ होती है इस फिल्म की, आई डोंट सी द हाइप. Of course, the film is a very personal piece of work about the relationship between a father and a daughter and how it is the most innocent ones who suffer when egos clash. The premise, as usual, was very interesting, but I didn't like where they took the film. And I don't even have an issue with abandoning the main objective of the film, because after a point, neither the characters nor the story, nobody was interested in finding the kid. But that's okay. बट अगर एक एक्टिव मिसिंग केस को साइड ट्रैक करोगे तो समथिंग रियली इंटरेस्टिंग शुड रिप्लेस दैट, एंड दैट वाज़न्ट द केस हियर. I love the character of Ronit Roy, a dork who gets bullied in college, and when he gets the power, he makes sure he uses it on other people. And he plays it with a natural sense of assholeness, something we've seen from him in Udaan in 2 States. Rahul Bhatt and Vineet Kumar did their job amazingly as usual, but dude, even here, I just couldn't feel Tejaswini Kolhapuri's performance. I've seen her only in Kashyap films, and even in Paanch, I didn't like what she was doing. She had a very Bollywood way of playing broken or drunk, which didn't mesh with the realism of the film. The best part about the film to me was how the actors carried their scenes. Vasipur ke baad se, Kashyap discovered a really free-flowing way of blocking and shooting conversations, where it seems like you're right there in the moment with them. The famous मैं अपने डायरेक्टर्स को स्क्रिप्ट नहीं देता way of shooting. Long single takes, well written, prolonged dialogue, especially that classic police station scene. One thing I didn't like was the ending of the film. Not from a story POV. I liked that end में बच्ची वहीं पे मिलती है जहाँ पे गायब हुई थी, and because of the neglect and personal ugliness of everyone, we lose the child. But the way this information is revealed was very counterproductive. The gut punch that comes in with the visual of the body is diluted with this trashy, heavily, exposition dialogue.
सर, कली को शिलाल नहीं उठाया था. हम कली को बचा सकते थे.
I think the visual of that rotting body was enough. Maybe a line or two about how she got there. But you didn't have to spell it out कि यार हम उसे बचा सकते थे, देखो हमने कितना बुरा कर दिया. One interesting thing was the Alia Bhatt cameo. I'm assuming it must be right after Student of the Year, and उस time पे maybe Karan Johar and Kashyap were working on Bombay Velvet, so that connection must have been born there. I'll put it under the Phatke Flower tier. Till the first hour, the film progresses very well, but again things start repeating, and then all the tension gets released in a very phusky way. After a point, everyone calling and pretending to be the kidnapper becomes absurd and funny, not in a good way. The only reason it wasn't zoology करनी चाहिए थी was the fact that it's a short film. तो boring नहीं है at least ये picture. But bro, he missed the ball on this one for sure. And now comes the most infamous film of his career, his biggest project yet, जिसके आने से पहले ही उसके बजट और श्रीलंका के सेट और अनुष्का शर्मा की सर्जरी की बात हो रही थी. For the first time, I saw so many brand partner logos in a Kashyap film. भाई बंदा फिल्म प्रमोट करने के लिए कॉफी विद करण पे भी आ गया. A film that was being brewed for 9 years, which at the time of making became so much bigger than one man's vision to tell a story. There was commerce involved, big budgets, big pressure, and it all crumbled in a disastrous performance at the box office, which I would argue irreparably damaged Kashyap's equation with the film industry and his security while working with decent budgets. सबसे पहले तो I want to say that it is a very well written film. The world building, the characters, their motivations, everything was on point. Performances भी काफी अच्छी थी. Ranbir really has this fine way of portraying people with ambition. The way he projects himself in the slow motion shots, it shows that he's the descendant of Raj Kapoor and he has mainstream Hindi cinema in his blood. मतलब वो आंखें देखो उसकी. The only thing I was not a fan of from the jump was the editing. It didn't feel like the kind of an epic which it could have been. It felt like a normal story. It was edited like a normal story, which it was not. It was a story of Bombay, the story of post-independence India. तो जिस pacing के साथ ऐसी कहानियों को कहना चाहिए था वो नहीं हुआ. One very specific thing I liked about Bombay Velvet was the origin story of Johnny, of why he wants to be a big shot in the first place. बहुत सारी ऐसी माफिया फिल्म्स में कैरेक्टर की ओरिजिन स्टोरी कैरेक्टर लेवल पे तो काफ़ी स्ट्रांग होती है. एक बंदा इमिग्रेंट है, नए शहर में आया है, जॉब नहीं है, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. बट इमोशनली, एटलीस्ट फॉर मी, कैरेक्टर्स लाइक स्कारफेस डोंट कनेक्ट एज वेल, क्योंकि मुझे उसमें एक रिलेटेबल फैक्टर नहीं लगता. आफ्टर ऑल, आई एम नॉट अ क्यूबन रेफ्यूजी. But in this, since I'm a sucker for big cinematic moments in real life, I could totally see myself in young Balraj's position, watching a film on the big screen and being big-eyed when that woman says he was a big shot. That charismatic tragedy could have been hinted at more throughout the film, but I loved that aspect of Johnny's character. And I was with him throughout the film because of this one idea. The weirdest and the most random part of the film was the whole Rosie twin sister angle. And I get that the universe of this film is a bit retro, filmy है थोड़ा. It reminds us of Bachchan crime films. तो थोड़ा over the top चीज़ें हो सकती हैं. But it didn't make sense to me from a screenplay logic point of view. Usually अगर इतना left field twist किसी फिल्म में आएगा तो वो या तो ऑडियंस के लिए होगा या फिल्म के कैरेक्टर्स के लिए होगा. जब ये ट्विन वाला रिवील हो तो या तो फिल्म देखने वाला बंदा सरप्राइज होना चाहिए, जैसे कि प्रेस्टीज में, या फिर स्टार्टिंग से ही ऑडियंस को पता है बट सम कैरेक्टर इन द फिल्म डजंट नो दैट देयर इज अ ट्विन, लाइक व्हाट हैपेंड इन गुलजार्स अंगूर. बट यहाँ पे ये ट्विन वाला एंगल था किसके लिए? एज सून एज द सेकेंड सिस्टर अपीयर्स वी गेट अ फ्लैशबैक ऑफ रणवीर्स होल प्लान. तो ऑडियंस के लिए तो नहीं है ये कोई सरप्राइज. एंड विद इन 15 मिनट्स एवरी कैरेक्टर ऑल्सो डिड्यूसेस दैट ये ट्विन है, एक्सेप्ट विवान झा और समथिंग. तो फिर इतना ड्रामेटिक एंगल इंट्रोड्यूस ही क्यों किया जब सबको पता था? And they stretch it for far too long for it to be just a side plot thing. But still, I would like to put this in classic Kashyap. Even though it was a shit show commercially and expectation-wise, when you watch it divorced from the hysteria, it was a pretty good watch. Great music, good acting performances, even from Karan Johar. And apart from a few script hiccups, it was an overall nice world to be in. And it is Mumbai, a city Kashyap loves to tell stories of. So I can have it all day long. But as for the world, Bombay Velvet was the lowest point of Kashyap's career. His industry darling era had tragically come to an end. He had it all: budgets, studio support, and the biggest star in the country. But even then, it all went to waste. I'm sure it would have had a massive impact on his mental health and his ongoing projects. But यार, अब इंसान जीना थोड़ी छोड़ सकता है. A new restart was needed. At the same time, some things in our country were changing. The way we watch movies was changing, and something dark was brewing inside Anurag Kashyap's mind. वैसे तो most of Kashyap films are appropriately rated, but if there any film of his that doesn't get the amount of praise it deserves, it is this one. Everything from its moody color palette to the performances by the two leads, Raman Raghav was independent filmmaking at its best. If you listen to interviews around the time of the film's release, you will understand why making this film was so important and why it turned out the way it did. It followed the biggest financial disaster of not only Anurag Kashyap's career, but I think of 2015 in general. So to bounce back from that with such a gritty and meditative film, it says something about the character of a man. I still remember मैं फिल्म देख के वापस निकल रहा था थिएटर से, एंड एग्जिट हमेशा वो पीछे वाली सीढ़ियों से होता है ना, जो पार्किंग में खुलती हैं, पान थूका होता है सबने, नो लाइट्स. I could just hear the voice of Nawaz in my head when he says,
हर आदमी किसी न किसी को मारना चाहता है और सबको मौका मिलता है. आज तक एक आदमी, औरत या बच्चे को अपन ने गलती से नहीं मारा, ये गारंटी है अपन का. न वर्दी की आड़ में मारा, न धर्म के पीछे छुप के मारा, न इंसानियत का लबादा उड़ के मारा. मारा इसलिए क्योंकि मारना था.
अगर मैं कभी मर्डर के लिए पकड़ा जाऊं तो भाई ये फिल्म होगी जिसने मुझे वो पहला थॉट ऐसे दिया होगा कि मार सकते हैं क्या ऐसे लोगों को, मज़ा तो आता होगा मारने में. This film gives a vocabulary to the animalistic desire that all of us have to kill. I can talk about this film for hours. There are many things I loved about it, but if there's one thing I want to mention, it's the character of Nawaz. He's written so beautifully and carefully. There is a sense of loyalty towards Raghavan in his eyes, but it is not romantic. It has sexual notes, but उसको कोई भी कलर देने की कोशिश नहीं करी मेकर्स ने. अगर कोई नॉविस राइटर होता तो पक्के से नवाज को गे बना देता. एजी होने के चक्कर में they would have had some angle between the two. But then that would have been too extra. His obsession with Vicky Kaushal surely has a homoerotic side, but it wasn't explicit. Murder अपनी जगह, प्यार और obsession अपनी जगह. इस प्यार को प्यार ही रहने दो, कोई नाम ना दो. If there's anything I didn't care for was the chapters. I don't think they added anything much to the film, and now that I look back at his films, I don't think he needs to divide them into chapters. Black Friday as an exception was helped by neatly dividing it into chunks, but this, Kennedy, and even the smaller markers he adds with Sunday, Monday, etc. and Yellow Boots and Ugly, they feel very blah, a cool thing that needs to be done in edgy films rather than something that genuinely uplifts the viewing experience. But that is obviously a personal thing. I do not like text coming on screen in general. It just brings me out. So of course it can be done tastefully, but I just hate those location, time and character वाले name actions. तुम visually दिखा दो ना, तुम हावड़ा ब्रिज का shot भी दिखा रहे हो और उसके नीचे लिख भी रहे हो कोलकाता. So the chapters in this film and in general was an overkill. Also, for a film that was conceptually so dark, I would have wanted to see a little bit more violence on screen. Like just a tad bit. Remember that shot of the kid's body in Ugly? That kind of shit. थोड़ी grimy दिखनी थी ये movie मुझे, which would go with the gandagi and the behudgi of Raman's murders. One interesting thing I noticed was another cameo, and this time it's not an actor, it is a voice.
ये अच्छा नहीं किया, उसका क्या गलती था?
The voice of Kalia, the black drug dealer, is actually Kashyap himself. He's also in Mukkabaz, the guy who tells Ravi Kishan about the dosage on the phone.
जैसा तुम हमको बता रहे हो तो पक्का वो लोग उस मुक्काबाज को डबल ट्रिपल डोज दे रहे हैं. उसका सारा दबाव उसके फेफड़े पे आएगा.
I would definitely put Raman Raghav in film school. It has been in my film school in a lot of ways. बहुत impact है इसकी writing का मुझ पे, and I saw it at that ripe age when I wanted to be a writer and I could actually do something about it. With Raman Raghav 2.0 started another era of Anurag Kashyap's career. I would call this the pre-COVID, post-Modi era. It was marked by huge leaps in the country's politics and the industry's business model. As for the country, BJP came into power with a historic mandate, with Narendra Modi leading the country as its development-focused Prime Minister. He had a past, but many in the country had hopes, and to be honest, an exhaustion from the previous regimes. Modi ka har kadam would be under heavy scrutiny. In the film industry, Kashyap had had his biggest hit and its biggest flop. He had seen it all. Netflix was a thing now. Theaters weren't the only ways people had to watch new films. Jio का free 4G इंटरनेट आने वाला था, सबके हाथ में अपने व्यूज को एक्सप्रेस करने की पावर आने वाली थी. भाई बेसिकली लाइफ चेंज होने वाली थी. And for a filmmaker like Kashyap, we would definitely see glimpses of that shift in his cinema. Dude, this film showed me the kind of star power Anurag Kashyap had even in the South. हम लोग IIT मद्रास में थे for a fest, and two films had released on the same day, Mukkabaz and Saif Ali Khan's Kala Kandi. और उस time पे I used to write reviews for my college's film society. तो I think पहला show मैंने काला कांडी का देखा था. It was a खाली theater, ना बंदा ना बंदे की जात. So I was like, ठीक है, pretty normal. Why would people in Chennai flock to watch a Saif Ali Khan stoner comedy? But bro, the next show of Mukkabaz was almost fully packed enough to cheer for Shravan shouting Bharat Mata ki Jai in the end. And that's when I was like, bhai bande ki back to hai. He made a regular Tamil speaking audience care about a boy from Bareilly who's denied playing opportunities because of his caste. That's the power of cinema, and that's the power of Kashyap cinema. I see Mukkabaz as a modern retelling of Ramayana. As one character in the film says,
लंका लेकर आए हो तुम, अब तुम गट्टू मल के लौंडे नहीं रहे, अब तुम हो गए हनुमान, समझे? राम जी गए सीता जी को लेने, अब जा रहा पीछे से लक्ष्मण, तब तक तुम संभालो अपना पुष्पक विमान.
बट इस रामायण में लड़ाई राम और रावण की नहीं है. लड़ाई एक्चुअली श्रवण सिंह और भगवान दास मिश्रा की भी नहीं है. वो तो बस चेहरे हैं. लड़ाई है पैशन और सिस्टम की. पैशन जो आपको श्रवण की आंखों में दिखता है. Passion which made Vineet Kumar Singh write his own script and literally become a boxer at an age when professional athletes retire. And the system which makes Shravan work in the Indian Railways as a glorified chaprasi. The system that made Vineet wait for 18 years to be considered as a talented character actor. I'm not a very big fan of boxing films. I don't care for the sport in general. But this film makes me feel like I have skin in the game. Also, see the Mukkabaz versus Mukkebaz distinction. Such a simple way to talk about a deeper idea. कि आपके अंदर कितनी fight है? Are you a one-punch boxer or do you have it in you to go the long way? The film has a lot of these little nuggets that you can ruminate on for days. For example, the politics of the film. It is so well placed in the narrative, not overt, not in your face, but also it doesn't play any sort of balancing act. Just look at this scene.
हमारे बाबूजी भूमिहार के यहाँ नौकर हुआ करते थे. वक्त कितना तेजी से बदल रहा है नहीं?
It is going beyond the upper and lower caste binary. When an oppressed caste gets monetary power, sometimes instead of bringing people up with them, they further dominate the ones below their caste hierarchy. Or something as simple as when Shravan says,
15 साल की उम्र में तेंदुलकर इंडिया के लिए क्रिकेट खेलने लग गया था. अगर उसके पिताजी इनके जैसे कॉपी किताब का बोझा लेके बैठ गए होते ना, तो आज इस देश के आधा बिजनेसमैन अपना सामान नहीं बेच पाते टीवी पे.
भाई इतने बड़े-बड़े कॉन्सेप्ट्स को कितने आराम से एक्सप्लेन करती है फिल्म. Another thing I liked about the film and the general progression of Kashyap's writing is how he incorporates the technology of the time. Like this film is a very nice statement on the power of the smartphone in the post-Modi world. From mob lynching videos being circulated to spread bhokal or to communicate with someone who cannot speak. The same smartphone that is used to spread rumors and humiliate people in the name of Gauraksha, Shravan actually uses the same smartphone to get his self-respect back when he gets bullied by his boss. One thing I didn't like was the edit. Again, I'm sounding like a broken record, but a 20-minute patch after Zoya gets kidnapped really drags the whole pace down of the film. One interesting thing was this person. See this shot of a missing poster. This is Smritika Panigrahi, the second AD of this film and Manmarzia. But we know her as one of the best quizzers on Kumar Varun's Quizzing with Comedians. I'd put Mukkabaz in almost there, other than a weakish edit and a lost second act, which is actually a Kashyap staple at this point. It was a pretty solid film that stayed with me for a very long time. It would have been just classic Kashyap, but Vineet Kumar Singh's performance and the political commentary made it go one step higher. You know, there's always this one film where everyone watches it and goes like, "Bhai, ये तो मेरी life है." For my sister, that film is Manmarzia. I remember मैं अपने hostel में था. She called me out of the blue and we talked for hours about how उसके साथ Manmarzia real life में हुई है. So the film and its main character Rumi both hold a very special place in my heart. I watched the film in an empty theater in Vellore with my then girlfriend, and for the first time I felt that, bro, सब कुछ ठीक तो नहीं है हमारे relationship में. It starts out just like any other cheeky rom-com, charismatic but flawed characters, borderline cringy pyar, no earth-shattering conflicts, but some amazing music. लेकिन यार धीरे धीरे, without you even realizing, the film becomes so serious and turns into this character drama. You don't take their love seriously, it is all fair, right? Until life happens to them. I love the realistic and complex understanding of relationships that this script operates with. Even when the presentation is like a fairy tale, with surreal elements like these twins literally appearing on screen as if to tell our protagonist, भाई ये दोनों choices एक जैसी तो हैं. One huge upgrade in Kashyap's films, which I've observed post Wasipur, is the way he has been writing and conceiving his women characters. It was a huge gripe I had with films like Paanch, Gulal, and even Kalki in Devdi. But the way Rumi was treated here is so respectful. And I think that's because of Kanika Dhillon. She's far from perfect, but uske quirks kabhi bhi unjustified nahi lagte. It always feels like a genuine handicap that she has rather than malice or, stupidity. Also, even though the relationship between Rumi and Vicky is raw and rough around the edges, they scream at each other, get angry, but they never cross that line. A line I would like to call the Sandeep Reddy Vanga line. Even with the Chacha and Chachi, they are annoyed as hell with their relationship. They catch them having sex, Vicky comes to their shop, publicly gets aggressive with Rumi, but there is no scene where the parents slap her. A very common staple in these kind of stories. Because भाई ये वो दुनिया ही नहीं है. Rumi अपने conduct में इतनी empowered है कि वो parental pressure में आके शादी ज़रूर करेगी, but उसमें इतनी agency है कि कोई हाथ नहीं लगा सकता उसे. One thing I liked was how they wrote Abhishek Bachchan's character. He knows that he's falling into a kuan. He should not proceed. But just like the title of the film, we don't always have control over our manmarziyan. They make us do things that we shouldn't, ignore the obvious red flags, walk over warnings, and suffer later with the contentment that we did what our heart desired. We regret making a mistake, but we happily fall into that kuan again if the man decides to. Robbie went from telling Rumi,
"Koi jaldi nahi hai. Take your time,"
to being told the same thing by someone else later. That is character progression.
कोई जल्दी नहीं है. Take your time.
One thing I didn't like was how off character the ending was for Robbie. See, I really liked Robbie ka character in the whole film, right? But the ending really did injustice to him. He was a shrewd banker who knowingly risked his marriage because he thought he could be that husband material for Rumi. By the way, the English title of the film was Husband Material, which was weird, but it kind of explains the world better than Manmarziyan. But yeah, Robbie. He somewhere thought that he'll be able to fix Rumi and make her forget Vicky, which actually starts to happen. He becomes this Ramji type, and after some initial hiccups, Rumi is slowly getting into the habit of letting go of Vicky and actually sort of falling in love with Robbie, right? Actually, अगर तुम देखो तो Robbie के लिए सब कुछ अच्छा चल रहा है. But then one incident happens and Rumi goes and cheats on him. But I just don't think such a guy would give up after just the first incident of cheating. For a person trying to make his wife move on, he should know that it will take 2 or 3 attempts. For him, it should be a longer drawn process. He knows the risk associated and he should stay on the crease a little longer. And then finally a moment of realization can come where he's like, बस भाई अब बहुत हो गया. But इस फिल्म ने बहुत होने ही नहीं दिया. The first sign he gets that Rumi उसको आँख खोल के देखती नहीं, he snaps. So when he tells his father कि मैंने बहुत कोशिश करी, you're like, really भाई, करिए तूने कोशिश. I'm not giving any moral judgment on what Robbie should have done, but I'm just saying that it is off character. Starting में इतना dude बन रहा था, so he should have seen this through, and it would have made for a better arc overall. Especially the ending. Once you've concluded with them getting a divorce and being friends, why would you have this slow motion romantic shot of her running into his arms? Like, I get that love is complex, but यार complex के चक्कर में तुमने रूमी को बेवकूफ दिखा दिया and you made Robbie look like a cuck, which they're both not. दोनों काफी एजेंसी वाले लोग हैं. Having them separating amicably as friends would have been a more complex ending. कि भाई हर प्यार का solution शादी या relationship नहीं होता. कुछ प्यार DJ Sands को DJ मोहब्बत बनाता है. कुछ प्यार रूमी को अपने लिए लड़ना और खड़े होना सिखाता है. ज़रूरी नहीं है कि एंड में हर किसी की जोड़ी बननी ही हो. I would say that this is the most un-Kashyap moment of his filmography. Something that was done purely because love stories में तो एंड में लड़का लड़की मिलना ही चाहिए. I would have wanted Rumi to stay alone in the end, maybe start playing hockey again after the runtime of the film. But her hugging Robbie was just a over-romantic cop-out for me. Rumi ऐसा नहीं करती यार. थोड़ा फटके फ्लावर हो गया. I cringe every time that ending happens. This era of Kashyap films is the hardest to judge as a neutral viewer. Every film feels similar in perspective and experience, even though it is starkly different in tone and milieu. Plus, since the classic Kashyap tropes are finally set, most films in this era fall in that tier. अब फिल्में उतनी tight नहीं हैं, उतनी power packed नहीं हैं, but by no means are they bad films. After Bombay Velvet, it feels like Anurag Kashyap खाली हो गया. By this time, we have seen everything we could see about him. And post that, it was just new ways of saying the same thing. Something that happens to all great artists. But at the same time, I think Kashyap was exploring these new writing and editing devices that we haven't seen from him previously. Like, one really nice thing I noticed about both Mukkabaz and Manmarziya's editing is that these films weren't edited for time or spatial continuity. They were edited for emotional flow. Like, see this scene in Manmarziya during Halla. It is moving back and forth in time and location for no reason. Or in Mukkabaz here. And at a lot of places, this editing made it confusing for me to place the scene in the chronology of the film. But emotionally, it makes total sense. And that is something I really love. I think this is something that Aarti Bajaj picked up from editing Imtiaz Ali's 3 films, Rockstar, Highway and Tamasha, because uska bhi edit काफी उल्टा पुल्टा है. But I really like that, you know, they carried over into Kashyap films. After Manmarziya starts the Netflix era of Kashyap, the angry old man era. OTT was finally here. Kashyap had a hit Netflix show with Sacred Games, and especially after the pandemic, the whole landscape of films had changed. Films that might have been in production for theatre were getting directly dropped on OTT. New projects were being greenlit. But at the same time, controversies like Tandav, Leela, and Suitable Boy were testing the OTT's threshold to back creators. So for a filmmaker like Kashyap, it would be a tricky time to make the kind of films you want. Because on one end, you have a huge cult fan base who's dying for more content, and now finally the distribution chain has worked itself out. But on the other end, heavy-handed censorship is creeping up, and the theatrical model is going to be hugely dented because of a worldwide pandemic. Then in 2020 comes the Kashyap film I was most hyped about, Choked. Because bhai, Anurag Kashyap is one of the most reactive people online. Someone whose politics I agree with by and large, but just the fact I see so much of him makes it hard for me to care about each and every one of his social media outbursts. So when I found out that he's making a magical realist film with demonetization as a backdrop, I was excited. Because finally, I would get to see his politics overtly reflected in cinema instead of Twitter. It happened last in Mukkabaz, and I really loved it. That's the kind of Kashyap I want. Filmo se bolo bhai, social media is not your medium. Now this film had a dual responsibility in my opinion, and your experience of the film depends upon how well he delivered on these two responsibilities. Ek to, making a convincing film about an event that has just happened, showcasing the hysteria and acting as a time capsule for 2016. अगर आज से 20 साल बाद जब मोदी नहीं होगा, शायद बीजेपी भी नहीं होगी, तब अगर कोई जेन बीटा या गामा ये फिल्म देखे तो उनको पता चलना चाहिए कि भाई डिमोनेटाइजेशन था क्या. बट एट द सेम टाइम इट शुडंट जस्ट बी अ पर्ज ऑफ वन मैन्स भड़ास. इट शुडंट बी ओवर्ट प्रोपेगेंडा. नाउ आई बिलीव दैट एवरी फिल्म इज प्रोपेगेंडा फॉर सम आइडियोलॉजी और द अदर. आई हैव अ सीरीज अबाउट इट. बट इतनी ब्लेटेंटली भड़ास मत निकालो. कुछ कहानी होनी चाहिए एट द सेंटर, ताकि जो बेवकूफ आदमी है जिसको पॉलिटिक्स का पता नहीं, उसके लिए इट शुड बी जस्ट अ स्टोरी अबाउट अ कपल. एंड आई थिंक चोक्ड वर्कड परफेक्टली ऑन द फर्स्ट क्राइटेरिया, नॉट सो मच ऑन द सेकंड. सी, I love how it captured the madness of not just demonetization, but the early years of the Modi government. कैसे मशरूम खाते हैं, घर छोड़ दिया, अच्छे दिन आएंगे. It captured all of this with the character of Sushant, जिसकी खुद की लाइफ झंड है, but he has put all his hope in a leader who doesn't even know of his existence. And as usual, the brunt of that false hope falls on the woman of the house. And the moment when demonetization gets announced, Sushant gets exposed. Because भाई उसके पास तो 500 और 1000 के नोट है नहीं. He has no skin in the game. तो for him it is just अब देखो कैसे black money निकलता है. वो और बिल्डिंग के बेवड़े नाच रहे हैं, and the people who it affects are shit scared. सरिता, because finally जो उसकी लाइफ में एक अच्छी चीज हो रही थी, her infinite money glitch, it might just stop now. And Sharvari Tai, who needs to get her daughter married in the midst of all this insanity. She literally loses her mind when the announcement gets made. And it is exaggerated with a nuclear banger जिस पे बिल्डिंग के सारे प्रोपेगेंडा ग्रसित लोग नाच रहे हैं. And then we cut to real life footage of people getting stuck in these lines. At the same time, कुछ लोग नाच रहे हैं और बहुत सारे लोग अपनी नौकरी छोड़ के बैंक की लाइनों में लगे हुए हैं. Yes, this scene is absurd, but so were the times, and it works with the overall tone and genre of the film. But as for the second criteria, the film not being blatant propaganda, it was a hit and a miss. At some points, the political commentary hits really hard. लेकिन कुछ जगह पे it feels like Kashyap's Twitter is making these characters say these lines and not the characters themselves, which I would argue is inevitable when the personal is so political. But it was a weird look on screen at times. भाई मैंने ना इस बंदे के सिनेमा को क्रैक कर लिया. I know that he doesn't believe in the classical 3 acts of screenplay, but hear me out. I think Anurag Kashyap is a man with the best first acts in Indian cinema. Period. Like, nobody thinks and constructs his first acts, world building, character and conflict introduction the way he does. But ये बंदा अपने ही बनाए हुए world के इतने awe में आ जाता है that he forgets that you need to tell a coherent story. And things start happening that are great in the context of the world, but don't do much for the central story. And in the middle of the second act, he realizes that shit, अब कहानी खत्म भी करनी है. So he finds the most generic or random way to bring the story to a close and somehow starts the third act. And by the time the climax starts, the film loses its grip, and in the want of being inventive, it just ends up being a mess. And that's exactly what happened in Choked. One thing I liked about the film was the score, especially the percussion theme. Every time Sarita's boring life gets a twist. The play between pakhavaj and drums, it was very fun, Eastern and Western coming together. And the songs in general too were a fine middle ground between absurd and cringy. Loved the end credit song. One thing I didn't like was the climax. The IT raid and the neighbors sneaking into the house comes out of nowhere. अभी तक this film is about this couple and the magic of the money appearing out of a choke drain. अब इसके बीच में तुम अचानक से IT raid के real consequences मत लाओ, मैजिक में ही रहने दो इसको. अगर कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट सॉल्व करना है तो वो मैजिक से करो, और अगर रियलिटी इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो तो थोड़े अच्छे से उसको वीव इन करो. अचानक से बैंक लूट लेता है कोई एंड देन दिस IT रेड, मजा नहीं आया. आई वुड पुट दिस इन क्लासिक कश्यप कोर, वेरी प्रॉमिसिंग, वर्क्स फॉर द मोस्ट पार्ट, but it has enough going against it to be an undeniable masterpiece. But still, a very important film to chronicle the insanity of early Modi years. The angry old man has spoken. 2022's Dobara is one of the few Kashyap films that feels like a project from the outset. Look at the first announcement teaser. It feels like one of those ads he did on Jio Cinema to promote Asli 4K. Don't get me wrong, it was a good project, but still a project. The film had a great plot, science fiction in the truest sense, and it was done very well. I would say that it is Kashyap's coolest looking film, his cleanest. But yeah, we don't go to Kashyap for clean. I think one of the worst results of his collaboration on Sacred Games is that a lot of his stuff post that started to embody that Netflix look. Overly polished, flat, low contrast, it just looked staged. And that's evident here too. Look at Bombay Velvet. वो भी एक high budget mainstream Bollywood blockbuster थी, but it looked like this. Look at the tones. ये भी real location पे shoot नहीं हुई, but they feel lived in. But look at the night here. Everything here seems safe visually. The story and the screenplay, of course, is 100% on point, no doubts about that. But that I would think would be the original screenplay's doing. I haven't seen Mirage, but based on what I've heard people who have seen both, I don't think there's a lot of difference. My biggest issue with this film was I didn't see any Kashyap in it, except his references of classic Hollywood sci-fi films like E.T., Back to the Future and Terminator. But उसके अलावा काफी autopilot वाला काम लगा मेरे को ये. This film is a perfect example of why cinema is such a personal medium and why AI art is such bullshit. अगर ये exact film किसी first time filmmaker ने बनाई होती या कश्यप ने ही किसी और साल में बनाई होती, I think I would have loved the film even more. But we do not judge art in a vacuum. चाहे कोई कितना भी अनबायस्ड और न्यूट्रल होने की कोशिश करे, कोई फॉर्मूला नहीं है सिनेमा, एंड जस्ट लाइक दैट कोई फॉर्मूला नहीं है फिल्म क्रिटिसिज्म. वी लाइक आर्ट बिकॉज इट इज अ मीडियम फॉर अस टू कनेक्ट विद अ पर्सन एंड अ माइंड, एंड व्हेन यू नो व्हाट द यूजुअल एक्सपीरियंस दैट पर्सन प्रोवाइड्स, एनीथिंग एल्स बिकम्स अ डिसअपॉइंटमेंट. I wouldn't be surprised if I find out that Kashyap was the last person in this crew, because everything in the film feels pre-decided and tagged on. Even the music, which usually is the strongest part of any Kashyap film, it had absolutely no impact on me. Every twist and turn was underscored with the same generic Bollywoody piece. Every camera angle felt pre-decided. जो कश्यप के ब्लॉकिंग और स्टेजिंग के बारे में हम बात बोलते हैं कि इट्स सो इन्वेंटिव, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था. अगर कोई भी ये स्क्रिप्ट पकड़ के बना लेता तो ऐसी ही फिल्म बनती, which is something we can't say for films like Black Friday, Gulal, or even Ugly, which I liked less than I liked Dobara. One thing I liked about the film was Taapsee's performance. She really cracked the confusion of Antara juggling between timelines. Even Rahul Bhatt was so great to watch. I would definitely love to watch him play a Kashmiri at some point. Among the many things I disliked in this was the fact that the scenes were just bland. Interesting things were happening on screen, but the blocking and staging was this basic two-shot, over the shoulder leke khatam kar di baat. No progression in dialogue, no rhythm in the overall scene. भाई टाइम ट्रैवल की बात हो रही है, बट द एडिट वॉज सो बेसिक. इससे ज़्यादा टाइम का प्ले तो मनमर्जिया में था. आई वुड पुट दिस इन द डी टियर, वेरी अनइम्पैक्टफुल, वेरी ब्ला. इट फेल्ट मोर लाइक अ कॉर्पोरेट गिग कि कोविड का टाइम था, स्क्रिप्ट इंटरेस्टिंग लग रही है तो कर लिया. बट नहीं भाई, वो बात नहीं थी. अगेन एज आई सेड, कोई भी बना लेता है फिल्म. वी डिडंट नीड कश्यप टू डायरेक्ट इट. सॉरी. Almost Pyar with DJ Mohabbat was a few years too late to be politically relevant and shocking. A film about love jihad in 2023 wasn't a revelation. Not after there were literal laws being enacted against love jihad. It is the classical problem with fascism. जहाँ आर्टिस्ट कुछ इमेजिन करके सोच के लिखता है, अगले दिन वो चीज़ सच हो जाती है, तो आर्टिस्ट की सारी मेहनत बेकार गई. इसके साथ थोड़ा वही सीन हो गया जो संदीप और पिंकी फरार के साथ हुआ था. जब ये फिल्में कंसीव की गई होंगी, there would have been great commentaries about love jihad and toxic masculinity respectively. पर क्योंकि इन्हें बनने और रिलीज होने में इतना टाइम लग गया, तब तक ये कॉन्वर्जेशंस काफ़ी नॉर्मलाइज हो गई थी, एटलीस्ट इन द लिबरल सर्कल्स. समथिंग सिमिलर हैपेंड विद देवशीष मखीजा's भोंसले. एक 2011 में लिखी हुई फिल्म अगर 2020 में जनरल पब्लिक के लिए रिलीज होगी तो फॉर श्योर उसका मैसेज थोड़ा तो डाइल्यूट होगा. बट ऑनेस्टली आई डोंट थिंक वी कैन कंपेयर भोंसले एंड संदीप पिंकी विद ऑलमोस्ट प्यार, बिकॉज इवन व्हेन यू सी द बेयर बोन्स फिल्म, Almost Pyar has some glaring issues which weren't as present in the other two films. I actually really loved Sandeep or Pinky even after the message wasn't as impactful for me. Of course, the delay in release hurt the film, but ऐसा नहीं है कि otherwise तुमने कोई Black Friday बनाई थी और delay की वजह से केरला स्टोरी बन गई. एक तो this film is a case study of a project being ruined by more marketing than substance. अनुराग कश्यप should just stop doing podcast before the film's release, man. वैसे भी फिल्मों के बारे में ज़्यादा बात कर नहीं सकते तुम, आसपास की चीज़ों के बारे में बात होती है, उसमें भी तुम कुछ controversial बोल देते हो, तो जो बोलते हो at the end it comes to bite you back in the ass. तो भाई just let the film do the talking. तुम इंटरव्यूज में बोल रहे थे that this film is for Gen Z, ये फिल्म यंग लोगों की कहानी है, but it was more like the कहानी of what a 50-year-old man thinks young people are like. If you want more of my thoughts on this film, you can check out my podcast on The Quint. वहाँ पे I talk about a lot of these similar points in detail. But in a nutshell, this was a train wreck for me. The characters were not coherent. They were acting out of character, especially in the Dalhousie part. Like, the film starts with this poetic monologue by DJ Mohabbat. Yaqub listens to him. He's a fan, sure. But why is he talking to Amrita's dadi about धर्म की दुकान और मैं उस दुकान पे जाता ही नहीं? वो थोड़ी डीजे मोहब्बत जितना वाइज है. अगर होता तो लड़की को भगा के नहीं ले जाता ना. ही इज अ टीनेजर, ही इज स्टूपिड, जो लड़की की दादी से लड़की कहाँ है पूछ रहा है. शो नॉट टेल की बात होती है सिनेमा में. दिस सीन इज एन एग्जैक्ट एग्जाम्पल ऑफ अ कैरेक्टर टेलिंग अस अबाउट देमसेल्व्स एंड नॉट शोइंग अस एनीथिंग. एंड दिस इज नॉट मी सेइंग कि फिल्म में एक्सपोजिशन होनी ही नहीं चाहिए. हर चीज तुम सीन में लिख के नहीं दिखा सकते ना. बट इफ द एक्सपोजिशन इज इन गिविंग अस प्लॉट स्पेसिफिक डिटेल्स, it should be subtle enough not to seem like overt political slogans. Like इसी पिक्चर में एक इतना बढ़िया सीन है जहाँ पे कैरेक्टर्स बस एक दूसरे से बात कर रहे हैं और इतनी सटली फिल्म की पॉलिटिक्स निकल के आती है.
चंबा पहले पंजाब में आता था.
हाँ तो इंडिया भी तो इंग्लैंड में आता था.
चुप रहे.
That's what I'm talking about. डायरेक्टर एक्चुअली बाउंड्रीज और ग्लोबल सिटीजन और ये कंट्री टेरिटरी सब कितना रैंडम है सब की बात कर रहा है. बट इट इज रिटन इन अ वे अ क्लूलेस टीनेजर वुड से इट. याकूब को खुद नहीं पता कि उसने कितनी गहरी बात बोल दी. बट लाइन्स लाइक दीज आर फ्यू एंड फार बिटवीन. फॉर द मोस्ट पार्ट वी गेट शिट लाइक दिस.
जहाँ ये दुनिया रहेगी या नहीं कोई गारंटी नहीं है. वहाँ सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है मोहब्बत और म्यूजिक.
Also, to add insult to injury, it is a rare occasion of a Kashyap film having a terrible first act but an exciting third act. One thing I liked about the film was the way it looked at love. As I said in the Quint review, I liked that they saw love not as a destination but a manifestation of the little things in life. I was single at that time, now I'm not, but I still agree with the fact that love is not this huge eternal thing. It manifests in smaller things that can happen with your partner, but also your co-worker, a man, a woman, an animal, or a philosophy, an idea. ये सब प्यार है, बाकी सब बस relationships हैं. तो वो मुझे काफ़ी अच्छा लगा इस फिल्म के बारे में कि दोनों में से कोई भी कपल एक्चुअली प्यार में नहीं होता. इट इज़ ऑलमोस्ट प्यार. एंड वन ऑफ द मेनी थिंग्स आई डिडंट लाइक अबाउट द फिल्म was the pitch at which the actors were performing. Again, it felt like a boomer looking at Gen Z and exaggerating our personalities. One interesting thing I noticed in the film is this fake-ass slap that was left in the edit. I mean, just look at this. This film is a mess, man. This goes straight into zoology karni chahiye thi category. I literally have to make shit up about things that I liked about it. Actually, based on one dialogue in the film, I think they should have made an all-out zombie film about the virus of Hindutva and the love jihad panic.
क्या बकवास कर रहे हैं आप? अच्छे खासे थे. अभी आप भी ज़ॉम्बी हो गए हो.
I'm telling you, Kashyap has a dark comedy, dystopian kind of a film lying somewhere deep inside him. I would love to watch a film like that instead of this. Nishanchi feels like a film made in Khundak. Like he wanted to leave the burden of Gangs of Wasseypur behind in his new glow-up era. And hence he needed a purge from the desi gangster genre. With every beat of the film, every scene, it feels like Kashyap was behind the camera saying, सालों तुम्हें वसेपुर चाहिए थी ना, ये लो. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the initial ideas would be to market this film as Gangs of Kanpur or something, kickstarting a gangs universe with Meerut, Ghaziabad, Muzaffarpur in the pipeline. It feels like it was an attempt for everyone to recapture the magic of Wasipur, everyone but the director. For him, I think it was a genuine attempt to understand and introspect कि भाई पिछली बार मैंने ऐसा भी क्या कर दिया था, बनाई तो हमने नॉर्मल फिल्म ही थी, इतना हुआ क्यों बन गया. Which is why Wasipur and Nishanchi both work like twin films, with the second one rebelling enough to have its own identity, but inevitably not being able to escape the shadow of its older sibling. Both films chronicle the journey of a family that gets embroiled in crime, survival, violence, and revenge. Both films, set in North India, borrow heavily from the local culture, with music giving a unique texture to the world. Actually, Nishanchi is the filmy brother of Wasipur. The locations are a bit more stylized, the plot is just a little bit more jhatang, the acting is a little bit more acted, but it all works like a charm. Both films sport a cast of amazing actors, and both films mounted as 5-hour epics that were cut into 2 parts for easier distribution. And by the way, talking about the distribution, I think Nishanchi ka rollout was one of the worst ones that I've seen in my life. पहली फिल्म थिएटर में, फिर प्राइम पे दोनों एक साथ डाल दी. It was so haphazard. कुछ भी हो रहा था. I watched the part 1 in a theater and I didn't know that it's a 2-parter. But that ending really felt amazing, with Rinku finding out the truth about her father's killer. In general, I think this film was made for theaters. दूसरी film भी I think theater में ही release करनी चाहिए थी. I would argue that the dialogues on this were even better than Wasipur. They had this rhythm and musicality to it. Where Wasipur felt more real, this was more filmy in a good way. I don't know if it was because I didn't watch it in a theater or what. I just didn't find the second part impactful at all. To the point where the end, which was on its own a very cinematic and operatic moment, by that time तुम इतने characters और relationships explore कर चुके हो कि माँ वाला angle थोड़ा background में चला जाता है. So when she comes back in the final 10 minutes, बहुत हड़बड़ी सी लगती है. And I especially hated that angle with that influencer. I mean, I'm sure it was a tangent that could have been explored, but it could have trimmed that smartly, keeping the essence but sparing us the excruciating details. But the biggest difference between this and Wasipur is that Wasipur wasn't just a story of revenge. It was also a story of a developing India. It was a story of Hindi cinema, technology, internet आने से माफिया कैसे चेंज हुआ, ब्रिटिश के टाइम पे कैसे था. It weaved an intricate picture of how this one family story lies within the larger political landscape. It is set in so much reality. और when Definite says कि ये कश्मीरी सेब है, बहुत सारे आतंकवादी को पाल पोस के बड़ा किया है, विटी डायलॉग तो है ही, बट ये बहुत कुछ कह भी रहा है. आई फील निशांची में ये ग्राउंडिंग इतनी सॉलिड नहीं थी, विच इज़ वाई a lot of people rightfully compare it to Wasipur and then it pales in comparison. One thing I liked about the film was the whole Bollywoodness of it. Kashyap's references to Mother India, Raja Hindustani, and his love for Salim Javed. It's just his love for cinema is totally visible here. Tony Montana, Scarface, even the song that plays during the starting credit, it gives the POV of a film जो हमें invite कर रहा है as audience कि ये film देखो, right? So I'm just crazy about this subtle love story between Kashyap and cinema. Another thing I loved, which sadly isn't being talked about as much, was the music. भाई Dear Country क्या गाना है, तुम देश के लिए मरने को इतने absurd length तक लेके जा रहे हो. I love it. And खूंखार निशांची, मतलब आई थिंक जब मैंने पहली बार प्राइम पे ये पार्ट 2 देखा था तो मैंने 3 बार रिवाइंड करके वो सीक्वेंस देखा होगा. इतने बैंगर गाने पे बंदा बस स्नाइपर से शॉट्स मार रहा है. बट सैडली इन अ कल्चर ऑफ क्विक कंजम्पशन एंड म्यूजिक बीइंग डिस्कवर्ड थ्रू एल्गोरिथमिक प्लेलिस्ट, डियर कंट्री जैसा रैडिकल गाना थोड़ा खो गया. One thing I didn't like was Kumud Mishra's portrayal of Ambika Prasad. It again felt like a shadow of Ramadhir Singh, the calm, evil way he would backstab people but totally blank on his face. It just didn't suit his personality. Also, Bablu's devotion to Ambika as a father figure didn't come through इतना अच्छे से. वो chemistry नहीं feel हुई. One very interesting and amazing thing about the film was the twin photography. क्योंकि जब हम ट्विंस को शूट करते हैं किसी भी फिल्म में तो हम सेम एक्टर को 2 बारी शूट करते हैं एंड दे यूज अ स्पेशलाइज्ड डॉली विच इज केपेबल ऑफ रिक्रिएटिंग द एग्जैक्ट सेम कैमरा मूवमेंट हंड्रेड्स ऑफ टाइम. बट स्टिल मोस्ट फिल्म्स में तुम देखोगे कि जो ट्विंस हैं वो सिमिलर ही दिखते हैं, बिकॉज बोथ द पीपल आर शॉट इन द सेम शेड्यूल. कि भाई एक भाई अभी शूट करा, फिर कपड़े और मेकअप चेंज करके दूसरा भाई दूसरे एंगल से उसी समय पे शूट कर लिया. So the general body shape, way of talking and the demeanor is very similar. The biggest example of that was in Sinners. अब इसमें एक catch है, सब लोग Sinners और निशांची के twin photography को compare कर रहे हैं, but there's a catch in this. The two brothers in Sinners were actually supposed to look very similar, and yet they would have these subtle differences because they are the same two people but still having different facets to them and all of that. और for an easier example, see Dhoom 3 की twin photography. दोनों आमिर खान एकदम सेम ही बंदे लग रहे हैं, नॉट इवन एक्टिंग वाइज, जस्ट विजुअली स्पीकिंग दोनों के बॉडी स्ट्रक्चर सेम है. बट इन निशांची, one brother was shot months after the other, and in the meantime he gained muscle, grew hair and whatnot. So that realism is very perceptible. And since we didn't know what Aishwarya Thakre actually looks like, in the first part it actually feels like उन्होंने actually twins को cast किया. I would put the first film in classic Kashyap because it was a fun ride, very pacey, amazing dialogues. But the second one was a huge step down in almost all departments. So it goes in a lower tier, Bhatke Flower. I don't know if it was the way I watched both the films or the looming shadow of Vasipur, Nishanchi just wasn't the epic I initially thought it would be. But after a long time, it finally felt like Kashyap is free and breathing as a filmmaker again. आई थिंक बॉम्बे वेलवेट के बाद वो फिर से अपने 5 वाले एरा में कहीं चले गए थे कि भाई मैं दिखाता हूँ कम बजट पे फिल्म कैसे बनाते हैं, मैं दिखाता हूँ कि DIY फिल्म्स कैसे बनाई जाती हैं. एंड दैट समवेयर हर्ट द स्टोरी टेलिंग ऑफ अदरवाइज गुड फिल्म्स लाइक मुक्काबाज एंड मनमर्जिया. बट नाउ विद निशांची एंड नाउ केनेडी, द एंग्री ओल्ड मैन एरा ऑफ हिज करियर इज कमिंग टू एन एंड. हिज डॉटर इज मैरिड, कोविड इज ओवर, ही लुक्स इन बेटर हेल्थ और अब तो भाई एक्टर भी बन गए हैं. So clearly, he's in a much better space as a director. Films made after this time, Nishanchi and beyond, would be a fresh new look into his mind when it is free of the many burdens he carried all these years. काफी interesting time होने वाला है. And now, let's talk about the latest film that was released. A film which was shot before the Nishanchi, but again, because of this little thing called commerce, we are getting to see it years after it was supposed to come out. Actually, you are. मैंने भाई मामी में देखी थी ये फिल्म एनमैक के ग्रैंड थिएटर में एंट्री के लिए लड़ाई करके. So if you were there at that day, you know what I'm talking about. One of my life's biggest cinema flexes is watching Kennedy in an overflowing theater in Mumbai. अंबानी के थिएटर में तुम बड़े पापा के जोक्स पे पब्लिकली हंस रहे हो. That's what I'm talking about. Rumor has it that that was the reason for Jio withdrawing its sponsorship for 2024's Mami, and eventually the festival didn't happen only in 2025. So, love you, Bade Papa. I see Kennedy as a horror film, not the Ram Gopal Varma and Vikram Bhatt bhoot wali films. It is more like the modern social horror films that have become famous post films like Get Out and Hereditary, जहाँ पे भूत है, but वो हमारे अंदर ही कहीं है. More than the ghost, it is the humans that we need to worry about. They tackle complex themes like racism, mental illness, class, etc. और अगर देखा जाए आज के टाइम पे ये सब चीज़ें ghosts ही तो हैं, दिखती नहीं, बस महसूस होती हैं. किसी पे चढ़ जाए तो their life becomes a living hell, and almost always there is no escaping these spirits. In that sense, the ghost in Kennedy is the sense of disruption and hysteria we all collectively felt during the pandemic. It's not like the ghost started existing only after the pandemic, but जैसे हॉरर फिल्मों में नए घर में मूव करने के बाद भूत पीछे चढ़ जाता है ना, वैसे ही कोविड became a totem through which the ghosts of corruption, capitalism and violence possessed our world. First of all, the look of the film. The film is almost exclusively shot in the dark and the lonely streets of Mumbai, a city Anurag Kashyap claims to know like the back of his hand. But during the pandemic, this city is unrecognizable. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of Bombay is the crowd. They have a very nice word for it, गर्दी. But pandemic में ये गर्दी नहीं है, तो Bombay जैसा नहीं लग रहा. It is a ghost town. But the ghosts of the city are still there. The same ghosts that were the villains in Vikramaditya Motwani's Bhavesh Joshi, a film that Anurag Kashyap co-wrote. Kennedy, a man presumed to be dead, roams the streets of Bombay, masked up for 90% of the time with only one objective in life: kill. Now, this character is not someone we haven't seen before. Stoic, suited men who are killing machines. John Wick, Jason Bourne. Very recently, we saw the leading men in Animal and Dhurandhar moving through a violent world with a single point objective, not stopping to pause and consider the consequences of their actions. And this is where Kennedy is different. Almost in every frame of the film, You see his hands are ready to kill, but his eyes in real time are dealing with the kind of violence that he's bringing into this world. The exhaustion, both literal due to his insomnia and subtextual, which is visible in each and every muscle of his body. Even the way he stabs is not agile. ये बंदा थक गया है, but the kind of game he has gotten himself into, there's no way out. So in this way, I look at Kennedy in the same light as No Smoking. वहाँ पे भी the protagonist, K, Kashyap, is wandering lifelessly through a system that is much bigger than him. कहानी K की है, Kennedy की है, Kashyap की है, but खेल कोई और खेल रहा है. These people are against an invisible villain, whose presence is felt in every aspect of life, but तुम्हें पता नहीं कि उसे हराए कैसे, क्योंकि वो दिख ही नहीं रहा. And that is the fear films like these play on. Also, let us talk about the music, man. Kashyap has been famous for letting his musicians run wild and not caging them in the shackles of finding a hit. And while I always understood this as a theoretical concept, this time I could actually feel it because hip-hop was involved. I can't really gauge how different Vasepur or Bombay Velvet soundtrack would have been if they didn't 100% stick to the genre, because, you know, I'm not an expert on Bhojpuri folk or jazz. But this time, I could understand what it feels to have a truly authentic new age melodic hip-hop sound as the musical backbone of your film. It is a different thing giving a song or two to Divine or having that rap song in Nishanji. But letting a 22-year-old underground rapper lead the music for such a personal film, that is trust. And it's not like you are dumbing down the sound to reach a wider audience. It was raw, it was melodic, but with Amir Aziz's poetry, it was hard-hitting. No punches were held back. कहते हैं समंदर नमक चाट के बड़ा हुआ है और वो कमीना गला काट के मरा हुआ है. भाई, ऐसी चीज़ लिखने के लिए और ऐसी चीज़ स्क्रीन पे अलाउ करने के लिए ट्रस्ट चाहिए. The most prominent aspect of melodic trap is the mood. बहुत सारी ambient bells होती हैं, pads होते हैं. And in a film like Kennedy, it gives the city a very somber soundscape. And it beautifully juxtaposes with the classical score. एक तरफ ये पुराने classical instruments बज रहे हैं which remind us of a older time, maybe a time during Bombay Velvet जहाँ पे एकदम classical scores वगैरह बज रहे हैं, brass sections बज रहे हैं. But at the same time, there are these ambient pads that are happening. One thing I liked about the film was the edit. I can't say this enough. I absolutely love what Aarti Bajaj brings to the table. And Kennedy is the best example of the difference editing can make. It's not just about making a film long or short or pacey in time. वो तो है ही. But it is about what information the viewer gets when and how that affects the emotional perception of the character. We don't get to know about Kennedy's past in a linear fashion. It's not like a Shankar film where the present timeline is going on and suddenly there's a long flashback that explains why the character does what he does. Beech mein, randomly it'll cut to a flashback and it explains Kennedy's actions in real time, grounding the emotions even more. One thing I wasn't a big fan of was the final car chase between Uday Shetty and the police. It's not that I didn't like the chase, it's just that I didn't care for it. And I've always wondered why. It is well shot, it is not overly indulgent and long, but फिर क्यों इतना मेरे को uneventful लगा? And in my last viewing, I found the answer. See, and spoilers alert, by the time the car chase starts, Salim is dead, Rashid Khan is shot, and most likely Kale is dead as well. So why do I care if a random police constable is chasing my lead protagonist? अगर वो बच के भाग भी जाए, वो बच भी जाए, मुझे इमोशनली तो कोई विक्ट्री फील नहीं हो रही, क्योंकि मेरे सामने जितने भी विलन्स थे वो तो सब डिफीट हो गए. I didn't have any emotional stakes to care about that chase. One interesting thing I found was this weird fluorescent orange that was used in the Z5 marketing of the film, which is something that I absolutely had a problem with because the original yellow was so impactful. I mean, just look at the original poster. So much character, so much, personality. But ये देखो, random faces, sniper target and Sunny Leone के नाम पे पिक्चर बेच रहे हो तुम. I am damn sure both these shots are not even from the film. इन्होंने कहीं random stock library में से उठाए हैं shots because इतने fresh तो भाई ये दोनों दिख ही नहीं रहे इस film में. And after a long time, some ups and a lot of downs, I think Kennedy belongs in film school. If you want to learn how to visualize and write with a specific mood and tone in mind, watch Kennedy and then watch it again. And finally, I am done watching and rewatching all Anurag Kashyap films in the span of 2 months. except Bandar, of course. It hasn't released yet, but it's coming in theaters in May. I can definitely say that post Bombay Velvet, there was a dip in the quality and overall impact of his films, as only 2 films found a spot in my top 2 tiers. But I think a good chunk of that has to do with the mental burden of a flop like Bombay Velvet and the general hysteria fans have around Vasepur. But bhai, it feels so good that a man in his 50s, he's still working, and not working because he needs to somehow keep his legacy alive or because of a cult fan base. The man is truly working because he wants to. I would say even more than he used to when he first came into the city. He's acting, he's making films like Kennedy and Bandar, and he has recently revealed that he has started writing for other people as well. So I think only good things can come out from this, and I'm all in for it. If I have to say one thing about all these films, it is that they don't leave you. Randomly मैं कुछ काम कर रहा हूँगा and a line or a scene from मुक्काबाज or मनमर्जियाँ or Black Friday would come into my mind, and I would just go into this rabbit hole of thoughts about the human condition. That is what good cinema does to you. And that is why I don't think एक good director वही होता है जो सिर्फ good films बनाता है. I love R. Balki as a director, but I don't think I've loved any one of his films. I just like his perspective on things and the way he constructs his universe. And on the other hand, Lagan is my favorite film of all time, but I don't care for Ashutosh Gowariker as a director. Just because he made my favorite film, I don't think the guy has a lot to say. And this is why during the Oscars, the director of the best picture doesn't automatically win the best director, right? अच्छी film और अच्छी direction में बहुत फर्क होता है. And I think that's the reason why Anurag Kashyap is one of the country's most celebrated directors. एक तो for the sheer number of films he has directed, but in all of these, there's a story involved. There's a backstory involved. And it feels like he involves all of us in these stories. जब 2 साल से कैनेडी थिएटर्स में रिलीज नहीं होती या सुकेतु मेहता वाली फिल्म शेल्फ हो जाती है, it feels like a personal loss. And when people start celebrating Return of Hanuman after Adipurush का Abomination, the spirit of all independent storytellers gets ignited, because उस समय इन फिल्मों को किसी ने नहीं पूछा था यार. But his work keeps the hope alive for many of us कि यार सालों बाद शायद हमारे काम को भी कोई देखेगा, और आज जिन गानों पे, जिन वीडियोस पे 50 व्यूज़ आ रहे हैं, शायद वो कुछ टाइम बाद प्रतीक लिद्धू ओल्ड म्यूजिक रेयर अनरिलीज्ड वीडियो के नाम से कहीं सर्च हो रहे होंगे. अगर हो तो सही, पर अगर ना भी हो तो ये अश्योरेंस है कि भाई अपने टाइप का काम कर रहे हैं. अनुराग कश्यप मूव्ड फ्रॉम दिल्ली टू बॉम्बे इन 1993. He got to make his first feature film in 2001. Mainstream audiences started knowing his name only after Devdi in 2010, and only after Vasepur did he cement his name as one of the greats in 2012. सोचो 1993 से 2001, almost 10 साल तक कितना काम किया होगा इस बंदे ने shadows में. There are so many films that he has written for, some that we know about and some that we don't. Dude was the original director for Tere Naam. He wrote for Yuva, Nayak, Dhandanathan Gol. The man lives, breathes and eats cinema, and that is why he's a cinephile's darling. Mukkebaz and not a mukkabaz. Now of course, no person is above criticism. कोई hero worshipping वाली बात नहीं है. It becomes a problem when you tweet more than you direct, or when in the name of showing love to someone, you end up condoning and brushing over valid concerns about the politics of the film. And obviously the interviews. The bechara Gyan Chodhu attitude he approaches his speeches and interviews with. It is insightful to listen to, but he has done so much of it that it ends up sounding like a broken record, which I think hampers his filmmaking. And that's actually why a film like Kennedy worked so much for me. Nobody knew about it. Ek din I just went and saw it and got my mind absolutely blown. Ab imagine karo, he starts giving rounds of interviews about how the film was him dealing with COVID and whatnot. Bhai, फिल्में तुम्हारी रिलीज होती नहीं है, इंटरव्यूज तुम पहले दे देते हो. And that's what I see happening with the Z5 release of Kennedy. So I don't think some things actually change. And to be honest, इसमें उनकी भी कोई गलती नहीं है. A section of the media really hounds and glazes him like anything, as if India में और कोई डायरेक्टर अपनी तरह की फिल्में बना ही नहीं रहा. फालतू में इंडी सिनेमा का तेंदुलकर बना दिया उसे. And that serves no one, not even the cinephiles claiming to uplift the standard of the craft. A film like The Fable, it doesn't get mainstream cinephile approval until people like Anurag Kashyap and Piyush Mishra lend their names to it. There's a film that has been made for years now. It's called Dug Dug. क्या बेहतरीन फिल्म है भाई. और भाई लिख के ले लेना, जैसे ही वो फिल्म रिलीज पे आएगी, Anurag Kashyap's interviews about the films and quotes will become more important than the film. सबने ये फेबल वाला इंटरव्यू देखा है, बट थिएटर में कितने लोगों ने जाके देखी? थिएटर छोड़ो, अभी प्राइम पे आई है, प्राइम पे कितने लोगों ने देखी? बस क्लासिक आर्ट हाउस सिनेमा बोल के लाल कपड़े में पैक कर दिया मंदिर में रख के, जैसे सबके मंदिर में गीता रखी हुई होती है ब्रांड न्यू, खोल के पढ़ी नहीं है किसी ने भी. And this is how legends like Anurag Kashyap are created, and him being this larger than life phenomena is something that will hurt independent next gen cinema in the long run. Because Anurag Kashyap is not the last good director. He's not the last independent director. He might have been the first in our generation, but definitely he's not the last. And this is coming from a Kashyap fan. I just don't want my idols to fade away with their legacies being diluted. And yes, these were my ramblings about my favorite Hindi film director and his films. You tell me which of his films belong in a film school and which ones make you go, bhai isse acha zoology kar lete. As always, the conversation continues in the comments below. This was Prateek Lidhu, and I'll see you in the next one.
रहना चाहता हूँ मैं भी माइक पे ऑन करना चाहता हूँ world change for my time is gone. I don't really know if I'm made for this shit. Life is a box of colors and I am the white crayon.